everybody, and welcome back to another Nextlander podcast. We are here after the big, not E3 season. I was going to say winding down. Alex Navarro. We were here in the fine state of New Jersey, just feeling the aftershocks of all these announcements as they were kind of streamed live. We were there with the audience, with the remote audience, kind of absorbing the waves of indie games coming at us.
Nobody brings video games to New Jersey. We have to watch the video games from afar where they will actually bring video games.
That's right. But the echoes carried here, and there were plenty, and to reiterate, indie games aplenty.
Primarily.
Acknowledgements that AAA is in a weird troubled space, maybe. Brad Shoemaker, you were on the ground. You were in LA.
That's right. Los Angeles correspondent checking in
the beating heart in Game City during all of this. What on the ground did you feel the sentiment there was? Yo, AAA might be in a weird space.
Kinda.
Okay.
People seem to be excited to be there. I was excited to be there.
Oh no, I'm not saying not excited to be there. I love an indie game.
Right, but what I mean is like people were excited to be there, or excited about video games. Like large and small. Let's say
all the games are welcome.
Like the troubled state of development, sustainability of large scale video game production was not necessarily like front of mind in a lot of the conversations. It was a lot more about what was there and playable and coming out soon. It was mostly people showing their wares that are almost done.
So we'll get into kind of the ins and outs and the particulars here of what was shown and what you played in particular or saw played live and in person. Such a weird concept. But first, before we get to any of that, the real news. What's going on with your groundhogs, Alex? We touched on this on the Ramblecast. Alex has 2 groundhogs in his backyard. Or
now I have one.
Had 2 groundhogs in the backyard?
Yeah. One has been trapped. The big boy has been trapped.
You got him.
Gus, ladies and gentlemen, we got him.
Wait. Did you say Gus?
That's what we call him.
Okay, if you gave him a name, I think he lives with you now.
Yeah, look, here's the thing. We name all the animals that hang out in our backyard. The squirrels all have their names, even though I can't actually tell them apart, so I just assume it's Huey, Dewey, and Louie, whichever one. But yes, I've seen 2 groundhogs back there. We have had to trap out. We caught 1 raccoon and had to free it. And then literally, like hours after we had recorded that Ramblecast, the big boy was caught.
And taken to, we assume, and we are told, or you are told, taken to a new home.
Let me put it this way. The lady who came and got the trap was so happy to see the groundhog and was like, oh, I brought my kid with me. We always name the groundhogs when we pick them up. It seemed like they were genuinely enthusiastic about the species.
Great.
And they said they always bring them to a nature preserve that is near where they are based. So
good. Best of luck. We wish you the best of luck, Gus.
Yeah. He's out there. There's going to be all kinds of land out there for you to make your little burrows, all kinds of trees to ruin that aren't mine. That's just fine by me.
And now who's left?
The smaller one, I think, who I have not. It does not come out as often, and I have not seen since Gus was apprehended. So, but we did catch another raccoon last night.
Okay, not
and
the
I'm
same
pretty sure
raccoon.
it was I think it was a different one because this one seemed a lot fatter. This one had been snacking.
Man. I'm good on your partner for releasing the raccoon. I would be scared to death to open a cage with a raccoon in it. I would just assume
I didn't open that cage.
That raccoon would want revenge as soon as possible.
Oh, the raccoon cage. Oh, yeah. I mean, the thing is, Sam just puts on a pair of gloves and then just opens the door and they just scurry out. Like, they're not interested in fighting. They just want to get out of there.
Nice. So, we're still on Groundhog Watch.
Yeah.
Great.
For at least the next few weeks, we are still on watch, but one of them's gone. And it was definitely the one I saw the most often, so we'll see how this goes.
Interesting. Okay, well, I'll keep us updated. We'll find out soon.
Sounds to me like you have an opportunity to become a raccoon hot dog guy.
Oh, yeah.
No.
What if you had more raccoons showing up?
Yeah.
There's probably a lot of them around here, is my guess. Yeah. And I'm actually kind of surprised I don't see more people's trash getting raided, because there's definitely been a few of those and a few possums around.
Maybe you need to start leaving more hot dogs out.
I don't think I'll be doing that.
they were talking about in the Discord roof raccoons in Germany. Like that raccoons getting into people's like insulation and roofs, and that's
what the fuck's going on in that country?
I don't know. Well, a lot, but
Yeah.
I don't know with the raccoons. They're taking it to another level. Raccoons know how to use ladders over there. I really don't know.
My understanding from reading that person's comments was that they are not necessarily native to that region, and then once they were introduced, they kind of exploded.
I would love to hear like the New York raccoons being like, some raccoon being like, over here we're eating trash. Over there they're living in roofs over there. You should go. We should
They're
get
on the
a boat and
roofs.
go.
They got schnitzel. It's fucking awesome.
They're in houses. My cousin, he's in Germany. They got they're in houses. We're not digging through trash like we are.
Get me on the next cargo plane to Dusseldorf. Let's fucking do this.
We're living like animals over here. You know they're locking trash cans down the street. Did you know that? Did you know they're locking them up down there?
I'm
One of my
telling you, it
friends,
just ain't like it used to be, man.
he got caught in a damn cage. They had to let him out. Anyway, good. I just a quick update here because I know this will go horribly wrong, and I want to let people know before it does, or if they have any good ideas. We are embattled with our squirrels and our peach trees, and if they would just share nicely, there would be no problem. But they eat for 7 years. We have not had a peach we could eat off of our 2 peach trees.
How?
So they eat them all before they're ripe, and they clean them all out. And the bigger problem is they take like one little bite and then they just drop it and then they go.
Yeah, that's the best bite every time.
Motherfuckers. And so we've tried trimming them back. We've tried putting nets around them. We tried everything. Can't get them. 2 more things I'm going to try. One, a thing called predator pee, which is like just basically.
I know what that is.
Fox urine.
It's pheromones to try and scare them away.
I'm going to try that. Don't have high hopes for that. Squirrels are very smart and not really.
Squirrels don't care.
They don't care. So the other thing is, I've trimmed back the tree as far as I can from the fence, but squirrels can also leap very far, and I have a small backyard.
Watched them do it.
Yeah, so I looked up electric fences, and the way electric fencing works, like very mild, like little shock.
You're talking about a little buzz. That's it.
Little buzz, and it pulses, so you don't get stuck on it getting electrocuted. You have to be touching the ground. The current goes through you into the ground, so it doesn't work if you put like a small electric line on a fence. So what I have to do is I have to run like chicken wire to the ground if you can imagine, I have a wooden fence over the top of the fence and then a thin live wire suspended above that so that a squirrel, as it runs, will touch both the wires. Its feet will touch the chicken mesh, and then we'll get a little jolt if they touch the live wire. And that's what I've taken it to. Those fuckers have asked for this.
I'm really hoping the pee works out.
I think I did not want to escalate to this level. If we could just share the damn peaches. I love peaches. I could eat a peach for hours if we could just find a solution. But no,
I'm just gonna warn you. You are getting to Elmer Fudd levels of animal mad right now, and that does not end well ever for Elmer.
For Elmer, for Elmer. No, this will definitely end with me.
I could eat a peach for hours.
Gross.
Did you say animal mad?
Animal mad.
Is that a state of being?
I mean, that's kind of this constant state he's in because he's always mad at some cartoon animal that is menacing him.
From what I can tell, there is zero solution for squirrels. That is from what I can tell.
The solution is they run this joint. That's
exactly right. Like any solution is not a solution. It's a mitigating factor.
Those little fuckers like to go in my backyard and just like dig like about 3 or 4 inches into the dirt to find whatever nuts or other seeds or other things they're looking for. And I'm like, I could try and do something about this.
It's nothing you could do.
But do I care about this grass so much that a few little divots of them digging is really that big of a deal? No. So I just let them do what they fucking do. And you know what? If that's the worst thing they do to me, I'm fine with it.
Then you're consider yourself lucky.
And they eat the whoops, I lost my cable there. They eat the fallen fruit off the trees, which is fine because we're not going to eat that stuff anyway. Right.
Just eat the stuff. Plenty of fruit on the ground. Put squirrel feeders there. Go eat the squirrel feeders.
Hang on. I've never possessed a fruit tree. I'm very jealous of people who do.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Is there like a 5-second rule for dropped fruit?
Well,
It's like if it's literally touched the ground, it's
No.
forfeit.
you're probably
No,
talking
you can
about
still wash
unripened
it off.
fruit, right?
I'm talking about pre-ripened
Yeah.
stuff that is like still on the tree, but then
Okay.
falling off before it's
Yeah.
done.
Okay.
Because they also, when they're on the branches, shake all the extra fruit off.
Yeah.
That falls.
Yeah, last year we got no pears and no cherries, but we also moved in just late enough to where I think maybe if we had started picking like a few weeks earlier, we would have actually gotten some. But by the time we got there, they had just totally cleaned those trees off, which was actually good for us because it meant we didn't have a bunch of rotting fruit in the house for weeks before we moved in. But
Like on the ground? That's good for the
like on the
trees.
ground. It's good for the trees, but like there was a lot of it.
Yeah. There is,
What I'm
we
looking
have
at with that tree this year, there's a lot of it.
We have a ton of peaches on the ground, the tiny little peach nubbins.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to get it, squirrels. I'll keep everybody updated on how that goes.
Isn't a tree fertilizing itself with its own fruit kind of?
Yeah. Yeah.
Is that just a form of auto cannibalism?
Well, yeah, they
It's
want
kind of the opposite. It's like an auto nourishment.
and then they want the all the poop and everything from the animals eating in the tree, and then they carry the seeds and the cores and everything around. It's a good system.
It's only cannibal in the sense that, yes, it comes from there, but it's more like if you were eating the parts of you that naturally slawed off as you were just sort of progressing through time.
Cool.
Look, trees have it figured out. Okay.
Yeah. That's why they live so long.
All right. Now, we're not going to squirrel away these games until winter. It's the summer, and we're going to discuss them here. Where should we even start? Brad, tell me about your event. You got off a plane, and I assume they put like a lay of like games around your neck as you get off the plane, and Jeff Keighley ushers you in.
Little necklace made out of Game Boy Advance cards, yeah.
Yeah, those little PSP games just around your neck.
You know what I am the most excited to tell you about is my lodging situation.
Okay.
Do you want to know what street I stayed on?
Game Street.
Kind of.
Fucking Figueroa.
That's the street where where it
on
all used to
Figueroa.
be.
It's the street where the convention center is. Now that there's no longer a convention center in there, but can you imagine what it are? Like I literally, like the South Hall was across the street out my window.
Now you can stay there since there's no E3 there.
The South
Was there
Hall
any
of the
convention happening?
No, it was completely empty. But yeah, I mean, you guys will appreciate that. Just imagine what it would have been like to stay across the street from E3.
It's like a PAX when there's that hotel that's connected to the building at PAX. You just walk through a little tunnel.
Yep. You know, this hotel, the best innovation in hotel technology I have ever seen in my life.
Okay.
Self-serve towels. They have a thing on every floor called a stash closet where you just like wave your key and get in there, and it's full of towels and all the toiletries and stuff and like toothbrushes and everything.
It's
pretty great.
It's like it's a little mini fridge on the JetBlue plane where there's like, nah, just grab a soda, grab some snacks. Who cares? Go.
Mm-hmm.
Did anybody go out there like naked, being like, crap, I don't have any I just got out of the shower, I don't have any towels.
You know, it was right across from my room, so I guess I could have staked it out, but not that I saw.
I feel like, okay, in one sense, I'm like, of course, that makes so much sense. I always put the do not disturb thing whenever I'm in a hotel room anyway. I don't need fresh towels ever. Like, don't change my room.
Right.
Super smart. And people don't need their stuff laundered every minute when they're staying in a hotel. But also, is that like look, we got a couple more of these, make your own bed, do anything. We could lay off.
We could just stop having a wait staff and maids.
We got a couple of Roombas. Like, look, we're good to go. We just... You put a little request slip there that's like, hey, room 42 will make the bed of room 48 for a couple of bucks.
We'll get a drone that does the room service. You know, it'll be one of those little robot dogs that just saunters up to your room. It'll be great.
It'll be great. Or we charge a little bit more if you make your own bed when you leave. It was great. Change the sheets for yourself. Mm-hmm. Was it a nice room?
It was fine. Small, but you know.
No damp beds?
No.
Great. That's really...
Damp beds?
That's really my bar.
You a lot?
What?
Yeah.
You get damp beds when you go to hotels?
Not a lot. I try to avoid it, but you've never
once
stayed...
is too many.
You've never stayed in a motel where like either the AC or something's broke and the bed just feels a little damp?
No, I've been in some bad hotel rooms, but if the bed was wet in any way, shape, or form...
Not wet, like moist, you know?
No, that's wet. You just described wet. That's what it is. Those words, they're analogous.
Like, I'm too tired. I'm so tired. I'm so tired, hotel. I'm so sleepy, and I have so much work to do.
Yeah, but I can't sleep in wet stuff.
I know. Yeah, tell me about it. Yeah, it's gross. I'm glad. So that sounds like good. AC worked. What'd it go down to?
66.
66?
Yeah. That seems, that's pretty standard.
That's very acceptable.
66 is usually the floor in a hotel.
I feel like I've gotten down to like 62. I feel like I've punched it down. Yeah.
It might be a little frigid for me.
Yeah.
Do you leave it on? Do you leave it on when you leave the room?
No.
Okay, that's good.
A lot of the hotels, or the nicer ones we used to stay at for work at least, would have the thing we have to put the card in.
Yes.
And then if you take your key card out, then it turns it off. I usually would turn it off if I leave the room, or at least set it to like something normal, like a 72 or 78 or something. No, 62. That's for me. That's for me. What's going on over in LA in terms of hustle and bustle?
Hustle and bustle.
Yeah.
Summer Game Fests.
Okay.
Yeah.
Or play days, I guess, is what that's the distinction I'm still getting used to. Summer Game Fest, I guess, is the whole big umbrella term, and the stream.
Oh.
Like play days is technically the name of the little campus that they have.
Oh.
So play days is essentially what has replaced both the show floor and Judges Week.
Yes, basically.
Okay.
Yeah. It's like it's the closest thing to a show floor, but it's like kind of indoor outdoor. It was in this like kind of interesting event space that's like most of a city block that's like kind of seems like they bought up a bunch of like disused buildings and turned them into a giant event space kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So like one big building was just kind of the big open floor with like a ton of kiosks set up, although this thing was weird because it was all meeting only. There was like nothing you could just wander around and walk up to and play.
So
like everything, even like the kind of those freestanding kiosks, like you technically, I mean, you could probably go up if they were not busy and say like, "Hey, can I jump on?" And
they were checking
like,
mostly,
and they'd be like, if the 3:30 doesn't show up in the next 5 minutes, then sure, kind of thing. But it was very very regimented. You had to book a schedule to see stuff. And then there were like little satellite buildings off to the side where like the bigger publishers had set up shop, like EA, Capcom, Sony.
So that's. But played okay, so that's who is running that? Is that the Game Awards presents Play Days?
It's Jeff Keighley and I Am 8-Bit, I believe.
Okay,
primarily
like
Jeff Keighley's company, I suppose.
Keighley Inc.
I guess, yes.
Well, that was the partnership that was supposed to revamp E3 originally, wasn't it? When they were talking about doing that.
Yes, I Am 8-Bit was involved. It was 2020, wasn't it? I think.
Yeah, before the really acrimonious split.
Like when they were announced as like, hey, they're helping us like get the new E3 together, and then they pulled out, and then like 2 weeks later, COVID happened, and the ESA had a very convenient excuse to be like, hey, E3 is not happening.
Yeah,
and those of us in the know were like, it probably wasn't going to happen anyway.
So. For those listening to this, we are, and I assume if you're listening to this, you're listening to this. We're going to, yeah, it doesn't really make sense. If you're listening to this now.
I can't even, I don't even know what to say to that. Yeah, you're right. The person listening to this is listening to this. You're 100% correct.
It was such a long weekend. That one didn't even register with me. That one just rolled right off of my back.
Then we're just going to bebop around. There was a lot of stuff shown. Brad had hands on with a couple of things there at the show.
I'm not sure you can handle bebop right now.
We're going to rock steady through this.
Yeah.
That was another interesting aspect of this thing. Almost everything I saw was embargoed.
That is
like
weird.
Super not E3 where everything was not. You would just see it and then race to go talk about it as fast as you could, or at least that day. A lot of the embargoes have lifted by now, so I can talk about a good chunk of stuff here, but there's stuff that's like I won't be able to discuss for a while yet.
That is kind of weird, and
I don't mind it.
Some of the things like it's a kind of shotgun blast of presentations and streams that are happening. So maybe when you got hands on to something, their big reveal to the public hadn't happened yet, but stuff that's way later on is a little strange. So we're just going to kind of navigate through some of this. We're going to start here with Day of the Devs. It's something that we didn't wind up streaming. I had heard a lot of good things about it after it happened. I think it happened right after Summer Game Fest on Thursday.
Friday.
Yes,
Friday.
Yes, it was on Friday.
Friday. So, Brad, you got your hands on some of these things here. Do you want to pull out one that stood out to you?
Yeah, we talked about three of these. I didn't see that stream either. I was traveling, but I heard. I'm guessing they probably showed a good bit of some of these games I'm about to talk about that I played. So people might have seen these already. Dude, I played UFO 50.
That is the Mossmouth Spelunky folks.
Yes, it's the game. I wonder, when was that game announced? Like 8 years ago, I think.
Oh, when was that game announced?
Like it was announced before Spelunky 2 was announced, which was announced and released in the time this has been in development. Although, when you sit down and play it, you can see why it would have taken forever to make. UFO 50, if people don't remember, is a collection of 50 games. Mm-hmm. Which, having sat down and played them, they're all like vaguely within the 8-bit like NES sort of time frame and look and feel. But the thing I wasn't expecting is that they're all... There's like an in-universe fiction around these games. They were all made by the same company, which I think is called UFOsoft, if I'm not mistaken. Apologies if I'm getting that wrong.
In the presentation they gave, it said that they were for a fictional console, at least.
Okay.
They were all for this console. I don't know if they said they were all made by the same person, but they were all for the same developer, but all made for this console. I think I got to talk to Derek Yu. It was nice to meet him, and I managed to not go, "Oh my God, you're the guy who made Spelunky." I think there's like half a dozen people roughly working on this. They just sat me down in front of a giant grid of 50 icons and were just like, "Go, yeah,
just play whatever you want." It's interesting. They are presented in quote unquote chronological order. And like the earliest games are much more like technically rudimentary, like they were still figuring out how to develop for the console. And then by the end, and they all have like title screens with actual dates on them. They're all like from the 80s, technically. And like, the ones toward the end are like way more graphically impressive and complex. There's some whole like fiction going on there. I don't know how much they explore that.
So they talk about it in the presentation a little bit. They say that there's even like sequels to games that came out later.
Yes, they pointed out some sequels to some stuff. Naturally, so also this was an hour appointment for 5 games, so I only had roughly like 10 minutes a game, so I basically got to play like maybe 5 out of the 50 of these.
Oh, right, when you say for 5 games, you don't mean of UFO 50.
No, yes, there were 5 Day of the Devs games that I had roughly 10 minutes apiece with, so I didn't have a ton of time to check out different stuff, but there's there's beat 'em ups, shooters, like puzzle games, all kinds of stuff of the era that you would expect to see in there. Like they all play super well, they all seem really well designed.
The biggest thing that stood out to me, and I'm glad they explicitly said it in their presentation, was that they actually go out of their way to say, these are not mini games. These are beginning to end games.
Yeah. So it was fun.
Credits and the whole thing.
Yes, it was fun running into other people I knew who were into that sort of thing, who had played it and hearing what different stuff they had seen. Like I ran into a friend of the show, Wes Finland, later, and he told me there is a Dragon Warrior in there. Like there's a full-on Dragon Quest 1 style RPG in there that's a full-length game.
I mean, it's an intense thing.
The
only thing that I wish... They don't hint at it, they don't say it, they didn't even imply it, but if there were some in-game weird thing happening throughout all these games, that's what I was hoping for, and I didn't... Like I said, I barely had time to like play as much as I could, so I didn't ask too much about but I'm curious if there's going to be some meta layer storytelling, something or other about this company or something that would be really cool to see, but I don't know. That would be super cool.
Wes said there's also a Shadowgate style like adventure game in there, which I'm very excited to see. Loving Shadowgate as I do. Anyway, that game seems awesome. Seems like kind of exactly what they were pitching it to be.
In databases, do you think these games get broken out into their own games?
I don't know.
Functional games?
It was like crazy. Like every one of these things I booted up had like a tremendous amount of depth to it. It was like this one game has 4 different playable characters that are all completely different. And like it changes the game dramatically depending on who you put together as your team or whatever. And that's just one of the 50 games. Like
it's kind of bananas.
Yeah. And it makes you think back to the old days of development when games were made by 1 to 5 people in that era, from the 2600 up through like getting to 16-bit, I guess is when the team started getting bigger, but like, especially with all the modern efficiencies that have arisen in game development, like that's maybe, I guess a small handful of people could make 50 games in under a decade for a project like this.
In other worlds, these are released on like its own little console,
Right.
Like,
these feel like they should be like from the Pico 8 or something like the virtual console that was never made.
So that's UFO 50. That's got a this year date. Did they say anything about it?
You mean about release?
Yeah. Does it have an actual date? I'm trying to look up.
So
a lot of the
September
stuff
17th. Is that
oh
a
god,
real date?
that did get a date. I missed that. Standard like E3 thing of like being at the event is the worst way to absorb all the information from the event. I did not see that had gotten a date. That's 3 months from now. That's cool. Awesome.
So it looks like middle of September for that. That's kind of incredible.
Let's see. Let me whip through some others here. I played a puzzle game called While Waiting, which
that looked very funny.
It's very amusing. It's like a game about trying to kill time while you're waiting around for things. Mm-hmm. The developer said right up front, you can finish the entire game by doing nothing.
That's cool.
Literally just boot it and let it run and finish it.
And it's like it's like a chronological tale of this person's life, right? Like,
yeah, so it was kind of piecemeal the way I got to play it briefly. I didn't get a sense of what the overall story is. It was more just like, here are a few kind of puzzle scenarios to check out, but I was a child in all of them.
Oh, you were? Okay.
So I bet that was probably like the beginning of the game. It was all stuff like sitting in a car on a long car trip, like waiting in line for a roller coaster, waiting for the bus, stuff like that. And you basically get a little notebook of tasks, but they're very vaguely described tasks.
Kind of like Untitled Goose Game, right?
Sure. Yes. Yeah. And you're and you can poke around in the environment and mess. A lot of it seems to be involves messing with people, like fucking with them to amuse yourself. There's some. I don't want to say too much about like the solutions. Finding the solutions is the game. So I don't want to say too much about those, but there's some really clever stuff in there that really makes you think in a kind of meta way about what they're asking for.
I thought it showed very well in the presentation. It seemed funny.
Yes.
That's TBD. Okay. So no date on that.
Speaking of funny building relationships, I don't know. Patrick was evangelizing that game a lot around the show. He had seen it before I had, and then when I got to see it, I fully understood. It's a dating sim starring buildings, like construction, like the literal construction. Mm-hmm. It's like I'm a little cottage being hit on by a windmill, or this hotel is macking on me. It's very lo-fi looking, like maybe PS1, maybe a little better looking, but kind of low resolution. You just sort of roll your house around. You're like a beach. It's mostly, at least what I saw, was mostly set on the coastline, like a nice beach resorty kind of place. It's entirely, the writing is just incredibly charming and funny, and has a certain quirk to it. I think you need to play this game to really get the full effect.
They showed this during a presentation. It seemed goofy as hell.
Yeah, it is extremely charming.
Cheeky,
and so was the developer. I had a great time talking to the developer as well.
Very aware, it seems, of itself and what it's trying to do.
Definitely, for sure.
That only has a 2024 right now, as far as I can see.
Yeah, Day of the Devs lineup was like killer. I commend the people who select the games for that thing. You know who you are. I spoke to one of you. Like just like banger after banger. Phoenix Springs, I'll mention real quick. Point and click adventure game. I assume they showed footage of that. Like incredibly striking, like graphic novel kind of look to it.
Yeah.
Didn't have a lot of time to play it, but I managed to get like 3 screens in, if that tells you anything by point and click standards. But it seems like the entire game is narrated by the player character, who is a woman with a British accent.
So the thing I didn't...
Sorry, I was going to say, like, when you talk to characters, I only talked to like 2 of them, but she's describing what they're saying back to her. It's like she's narrating the entire thing to you.
Oh, like you go talk to someone and like she says.
So it's like a really well written way to get around only having one voice actor. It's just like I ask him about whether he knew my brother when he lived here. He tells me to get lost. Like that kind of thing. Like it in a very like novel like kind of way, I guess.
So the thing that maybe I'm thinking of a different game. There are a lot of games we end up seeing. Is this the one where you don't have an inventory necessarily? Like I forgot about that. Was an interesting aspect of the like interface is there's no inventory, and when you click on stuff that you can interact with, it's generally like, I think it was just look at, use, and talk to, I think. But you can also click on your head. Yeah. Okay.
And you have I'm sure they show this in the stream. Your head has an ever-growing list of things you know about.
Right, yes,
like
that's what
your
it was,
brother's
like a
name,
vocabulary almost.
You're trying to find your brother, yeah. It's like you know your brother's name, and then you know you've once you find the address he used to live at, that's in your head, and like other stuff like that, like the padlock on his old apartment that you're trying to get into, and then you can click on one of those and combine it with anything you could interact with anyway, and that's how you like ask people about different things, or like in the case of there's a computer terminal in the first screen I played, and I couldn't figure out what to do to use the terminal in a way to look something up until I realized you have to like pluck the things out of your head and use those on the terminal, and that's how you go like Google search stuff. It was neat.
That's a cool mechanic. Yeah. That one seemed really interesting, and again, like you said, the art style is very striking. Yes, extremely. And then the last one at Day of the Devs was After Love EP, which is made by an Indonesian team set in Jakarta. It's very like narrative adventure. Like I said, we had a very short time with each game, so I didn't get a ton out of the story there. But it's if I remember the story. So there's the in-game story, and then there's a real life story that kind of parallels it, which is Or maybe I bet they talked about this on the stream. They did in the presentation about one of the devs.
In the game, you're playing a character whose girlfriend has passed away, and you're like trying to deal with her death, and she's kind of there in your head, sort of manifesting and talking to you. And you're going around town. I believe they were in a band, if I'm not mistaken. So it's a lot of like narrative adventure stuff. But then yes, like I believe it was the lead developer. I think it was the person who kind of initiated the project, passed away mid-development.
Yeah,
tragically. And so there's like a real life parallel to the subject matter of the game that the rest of the team wanted to like continue on and complete the game kind of in honor of their departed coworker. So, and like there are references to that developer in the game. Like it was a really pretty touching story.
Yeah. It's like, seemed like a cool slice of life game.
Yeah.
Again, good art style in it.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So like I said, the Day of the Devs line up extremely strong.
My kids watched this with me and they liked pretty much everything that was in it. Did you see any of Screenbound?
No.
So that's the one that one stood out to me. That's the one where you're holding up like a Game Boy with
I've
the
seen
2D screen as you navigate the 3D world. I don't know if it's been shown other places. I don't know if it premiered here or not, but that was pretty striking. That was like a really weird one of something I'd not seen before.
Yeah, for sure. I don't think they had that one there.
What else did they have? That Fear the Spotlight game, did you play that there or see it somewhere else?
Yeah, that was on. Where was that featured?
They had that at Day of the Devs also, but maybe that was on PC, the PC game show, which I also watched some of.
Yeah, man, like trying to unpack what was on which stream, especially when I didn't watch most of them.
And some things were shown multiple places.
Yes, I was very impressed with Fear the Spotlight. I knew nothing about it, so I didn't even know about Blumhouse. Like, I didn't even know like Blumhouse as a studio, other than like the horror people, I guess. Like, they made Megan. Is that their biggest movie so far?
That one was. I don't know if that was their biggest, but it was one of their biggest for sure.
And like, they're all horror, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think they might have done like some light branching out into stuff that is not strictly horror, but that is kind of where that studio made its hay.
Okay, so I think they were on the SGF stream, right? And didn't they announce like 6 new games or something?
There was like 5 or 6 things in that presentation. Yeah.
They wrapped it up as like, oh, this is the introduction of Blumhouse games, and like this is what our catalog looks like, and they showed a montage of a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, I think that's kind of rad for there to be like a label or a publisher that is basically just doing horror games, because I feel like there are not necessarily enough commercial horror games out there where there could stand to be more. So I think it's cool that they're kind of spreading themselves out, supporting a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, it seems like they're taking the Annapurna approach, but for a specific genre.
Yeah, that's kind of awesome. So I guess this game came out of the Haunted PS1 community. You remember the like Haunted PS1 demo disc stuff?
Yeah.
Apparently this came out of that. It was on one of those quote-unquote discs that I don't think they actually make discs, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
It's just a husband and wife team. It's very, I mean, go figure, it's very PS1 style. But they're really nailing the look. Like I don't love every one of the kind of retro PlayStation 1 looking games I've seen, but this one, from the, just the undulating geometry, like the really heavy, like thick dithering, especially in the dark, like really nailing the look of that console very well, I thought. I didn't only got like 20. Well, actually, I played the whole demo. It was only like 20 minutes, but It's like two like high school girls breaking into their school library on like a stormy night and like stealing Ouija board and getting all spiritual seance-y, and then bad shit happens.
Bad shit happens. That's what happens.
I'm sure you probably saw some footage of what I played, but they do a lot with atmosphere, with given how rudimentary the visuals are.
A lot of like flashing lights and lightning and stuff.
Yeah, but also when you're playing it, I given both how lo-fi the look is and also like playing games on a show floor is the absolute worst way to immerse in them, you know, because there's like people walking around everywhere and like all this noise and stuff. Like I was like creeped out. Like I was surprised how much dread they managed to conjure in this game for all of those kind of limiting factors. Like, you know, you're creeping around and they do the classic horror movie thing of like character like flitting across your view very quickly, and like the environment starts shifting in really interesting ways. There's some very like kind of David Lynch-esque imagery in there at a point, I'll say.
I think no, I think it was a different game. Somebody said Lynchian for something, but I think it was a different game.
I wrote the word Lynchian in my notes here. There is some like claustrophobic red drapery that happens, let's say, in a very surreal way.
Yeah.
As things start getting kind of reality bending. I don't think this game has combat. I certainly didn't see any. It's like it feels very Resident Evil or maybe a little Silent Hill, but no combat as far as I can tell. All like puzzle driven. I was very impressed with like the presentation of that game. I really want to play it. Apparently it was on sale for a while last year on Steam.
I only found that out looking up the dates and stuff today. Yeah. Last year, looks like it had a September or something date.
I think it may have only been out very briefly.
Okay.
It seems like to hear them tell it on their Steam page, like they put it out for sale. It did well, and a mystery benefactor was impressed with it, and they came in and basically took it down from sale very quickly because now we know 6 months later they signed a publishing deal with Blumhouse is what it was. Which means they have gone back and added a bunch more content to it. They're going to be able to do console versions now and also do other languages, like do localization.
Okay.
So, and then I guess everybody that already bought it on Steam is just going to get the free upgrade to that final version.
So that has a 2024 date on it with no, no actual time frame for 2024. A lot of these things do have 2024 listed on them. There was a lot, kind of a big push throughout the show for a lot of stuff that may still come out this year. Like again,
but in a lot of cases, it is just saying 2024 and not actually giving you like even a month window.
Which we're not in dev. None of us. We've been around it a while. You probably have a little more leeway with a small team to kind of figure that window out a little closer to the window of release date than those gigantic moving teams. One of
the analysts I follow on Twitter, I can't remember if it was Matt Piscatella or maybe Daniel Ahmad. Somebody was basically, I mean, this seems obvious when you hear it said, but I hadn't considered like we're getting so close to physical release not even being a thing, or like it's become such a small slice now that like as everything goes digital, the necessity of the long lead nailed down release date is kind of going to go away because you don't have to worry about distribution into stores. You know, you don't have to worry about physical logistics anymore.
Yeah.
So like why box yourself in with a date that you may or may not be able to hit in 6 months when you can just get to the point where you know you can launch it in a month and then just go?
I mean, I will say Alan Wake did come out there and say, actually, no, we're doing a physical version now. So maybe there's some pushback on that. No, you can say
you're not wrong. I mean, like every time I would see somebody from Remedy tweet about that game since it came out, there would be the chorus of people going like, "Oh, I wish I could play it if you only put it out on a disc," type stuff. Mm-hmm. You're not wrong, but it sounds like that balance is shifting pretty hard.
The balance has been shifting for a while,
or flip flopping, where the norm is the digital, the physical is the kind of special
boutique
release
thing.
Yeah.
But the only thing I'll add to that is I would suspect if you are part of some big public company, you still have your fiscal reporting, where your quarterly reporting, where you want your game out the door so you can track the funds for that quarter.
Yeah, it obviously is much more important for public companies that have shareholder expectations.
That's right. Another game here that I think the demo's out because I played it, that looked awesome was a Ranger, and that was shown there too.
Was that part of Day of the Devs?
Yeah.
Okay, so I took that as a separate appointment. I'm not clear what the kind of provenance is of that, but that's almost out. Did they put a date on that?
That is out on July 25th.
Right, yes, right. That game's rad. Like,
yes.
I booked the appointment off of seeing a GIF of it. It's one of those games that GIFs well, you know? It's like you see it in motion, you immediately know roughly what kind of game it is. It's like, I don't know if I should say it's like a Zelda kind of game, because the gameplay, well, you played the demo, I guess, is out on Next Fest, right? And we might have played the same demo, I'm not sure, but does it just start at the beginning?
Mine started pretty much at the beginning, or what I could tell from the beginning. It ended before I got out of the gate. Or did I get out that opened the gates? Because you start in a town. You're leaving a town, and basically, I think I got outside. It kind of ended abruptly. Yes, I was going along a path, and then suddenly it's like the demo's over.
So it's like a top-down kind of action. Well, not action. It's a top-down adventure game. You're a young girl, like kind of leaving your village for adventure. I don't know a ton more about the motivation there.
You're I think you're special. You're definitely in the demo. They show you with a cutscene. You've been like dropped off, left by your parent in front of this gate, and,
right? Okay,
and you're taken in by like a boarding house, and you are the only one, I think, with this power, which I'm sure you will go on to explain.
Okay, yeah, like it sounds like, you know, you'll go on to like dungeons and other towns. There might be some optional side stuff, but yeah, it's the gameplay hook is the thing here, which is like it's kind of a sliding tile game. You don't move your character directly. Like the entire world is on a grid.
Yeah,
and you move the tiles in rows and columns to move yourself and also everything else.
Yeah, only stuff she's standing on though. So
yes, whatever she's basically like a cursor, you know, like whatever row or column she's standing on is what you move. And it gets very like tricky in a spatial way of like you have to start thinking about how to wrap items around the opposite direction from where you want them to go, kind of stuff. And you know, what I mean?
there are two kind of complications or two interesting things to add to it. One, some things will not move. Some things are static and they will not move, so they become barriers. And the other, like you just said, is you can wrap around to the other end of the screen. So if you can't, say, get through a barrier because it's in front of you, you can go the other way, wrap yourself around, and come out the other side. And same with objects. And to solve some of the puzzles, that's what you're doing. You're like, say there's a monster, you've got to push a sword into it somehow. So you've got to get the sword into position to... Did you fight the boss? Did you have time to fight the boss?
No, that was my last appointment. I actually went straight to the airport from there, so I had to...
Okay. So, like, there's a boss, and you kind of have to tile the boss in weird configurations to beat it. It's in the demo. It's a lot of fun.
Oh, that sounds awesome.
And, I was
extremely impressed with that game. Like, it's awesome because, like, it literally just makes basic traversal a constant puzzle. I mean, not always. You know, a lot of the point A to B is just pretty straightforward. But, like, they're able to throw little puzzly brain teaser situations at you literally just at will, like anytime they want, you know?
Yeah.
And so you're almost constantly just having to solve little challenges and think about how to move from place to place on top of the bigger puzzles that you get to. It's super satisfying to play. I really liked that game.
Yeah, it seems super neat. Definitely one of the ones I was glad had a demo coming out of that. I'll just name one or two other ones here from the Day of the Devs that looked cool that I haven't checked out, or I haven't even seen if there's a demo. I don't know if you saw them at all. Tom the Postgirl seemed to... it looked like some kind of weird, creepy, but not super creepy voyeur thing where you're like this post person, this like post girl in this town, in this like weirdo town, where you're like looking in windows, seeing like a cult doing weird stuff around the town. It seems very, very strange. And also the main character seems a little off as well, as you interact with the town. Not 100% sure what the gameplay is, but seems weird, very strange. The other one that my daughter was like, oh my gosh, we got to get this one. Can we get this? Was Koira, Koira. And it had
like
a little
Koira?
Koira? I don't know. It's got a little dog in it. It seems like a hopefully not a sad game. It's like it's very black and white looking. She was like head over heels with it. She wanted that game. She watched this with me. That, and I think there's a little to the left DLC coming, and she was like, we're getting that, right? It's the last time I ever watched these with my kids because they were constantly
sounding kind of surly.
Yeah, they're like And they're like, Dad, they keep saying to wish list everything. Do you have a wish list?
You better buy that, Dad.
Yeah, we're getting this, right, Dad? Put it on your wish list. I'm like, I'm not look, people should wish list it. Go ahead, but I'm not wish listing it right now. I'm sitting here watching this. Anyway, those are a couple of other ones that stood out to me.
One of the appointments I took at this thing, well, it was largely because it was a game my girlfriend would be interested in.
There you go.
You know, video games are for everyone now.
Got to find them where you can.
They really are for everyone. There are a lot more games shown at Day of the Devs, but we've got a lot more to get to. In fact, let's take a quick break and we'll get to some more of the showcases in just a moment. This week's show is brought to you by Babbel. Look, we all speak the language of video games here. It's a lingua franca. It is. We all know it. Alex, parlez-vous, skate.
What?
Brad Shoemaker.
Is this man speaking in tongues?
Sprechen Sie Doom.
Ja, jawohl.
If you want to learn some languages, boy, have I got a product for you. Babbel. I actually use Babbel. I've been doing the Italian on Babbel for a while now. I'm not just reading the ad. I'm a supporter of Babbel. I have actually upgraded mine because I need so much help with languages. They had a lifetime thing that I wound up being like, this is going to be a journey. This is
not going to be a short jaunt for you.
This is going to be a 10 minutes a day for a long time for me. Babbel's quick 10-minute lessons are handcrafted by over 200 language experts to help you start speaking a new language in as little as 3 weeks. Babbel's designed by real people for real conversations. I really actually enjoy the way they kind of integrate in the starting stuff into more complicated things where it feels like you're like, I'm good, I'm not good, I'm good again, I'm not good, which really helps me as a low-confidence language learner feel like I am making progress, especially in the speaking parts. They also have speech recognition things where you can practice your pronunciation. I'm not sure if they're being generous with me, but sometimes they ding me and they say I'm wrong, and sometimes they give it to me. Most of the time I feel like I'm wrong. And Babbel has over 16 million subscriptions sold, plus all of Babbel's 14 award-winning language courses are backed by their 20-day money-back guarantee. Here's a special, limited time deal for our listeners. Right now, get 55% off your Babbel subscription, but only for our listeners. At Babbel.com/Nextlander. Get 55% off at Babbel.com/Nextlander. That's BABBEL.com/Nextlander. Rules and restrictions may apply. Thanks, Babbel. All right, we are back, and Brad, you took kind of appointments off schedule out of not really related to one of the showcases. What else did you wind up seeing in some of the just singular appointments you took?
Man, I've got I'll say now, I've got 24 more games I played or something. A lot of which, like I said, is still embargoed, so it's gonna be like the rest of June that I'm going to be talking about stuff I played at this thing.
God, it's almost like they could have filled an entire expo with this stuff.
Yeah.
Dude, I had 3 different conversations over the weekend with people who were just idly musing about I wonder if they could move this into the convention center at some point.
But not making a joke?
No, kind of semi-seriously, but not the whole thing.
I don't know if you can fill both halls
no,
necessarily, but
no, it was very much I looking at that thing could probably fill the West Hall at this point or close to it.
I think it's. Well, I'll just add this because they said it in Day of the Dev, and I don't know how this works for the rest of the play days or whatever else was going on here. They explicitly say in Day of the Devs they do not charge developers to set up a booth during any of that stuff when they host it, which is a giant barrier to entry if you're a small developer.
Oh, yeah.
Trying to get out there.
I'm not saying they should move it into the convention center. I think that was just some kind of wistful, nostalgic thinking,
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I just mean when you said, when that came up, it was I used to remember the developers and publishers talking about the cost of being inside that thing.
Cost of doing business.
Yeah. Obviously getting the convention center is enormously expensive. Another thing is a big open show floor is not really fit for purpose for what this thing is, because a lot of this stuff was behind closed doors.
Oh, right. You were saying.
Pretty much every bigger publisher had their own enclosed space because they were taking appointments for big theater demos and stuff like that. So like you can't do that. You know, everybody would have to build up a booth to be able to do that, or take it off the show floor, which is probably even more fees to the convention center. Like it doesn't make sense to do that.
Funny. Yeah.
I think that was more like a commentary on how much bigger this thing has gotten year by year. Because this is my first one, but it's the third one overall. And talking to people like that, the open area that I mentioned with like some kiosks, that's just kind of where you walk around. That apparently was the entire thing the first year. And then I guess the next year they added on a little more. And like I said, this year it basically took up like most of a block.
Well,
so it sounds like and I think a number of the bigger companies at this thing this year, I think it was their first time. So it seems like this is, I guess what I'm trying to say is this thing is quickly becoming institutionalized as like the thing in the E3 window.
I do wonder what that'll mean for places like the ESA, if they will want to have some kind of, I don't know, vote isn't the right thing, but you know what I mean? Like some kind of sway in there.
I think it's nice for the ESA to want things. I don't know.
At this point, it's not just Jeff Keighley that wants to marginalize them. I'm not even sure the game industry cares about what they think anymore.
Yeah, like I don't know that they have a leg to stand on here. I think he kind of defeated them officially.
That's the thing, and I don't want to spend too much time going into the weird machinations behind what's going on here, but you do have some of these companies that are part or voting members of the ESA, like, you know, people that are on the board of the ESA, now being at this thing. I guess it's easier now that E3 is officially gone and there doesn't have to be a kind of split of like, well, if you're going to be at this thing, you can't be at this thing.
Right.
But it does seem like the ESA does more than just E3, and the ESA does more than, and I'm not trying to say the ESA has
not that much more.
Well,
these days.
They still do it. They still handle like.
Well, no, they're still the lobbying organization of the industry. It just also seems like a lot of the companies just don't care about that thing that much. Like, I don't know how much actual work they are doing on games' behalf at this point.
Yeah, again, or let's just say favorable work. I really don't know.
What are they able to do that Microsoft's lawyers just can't do at this point?
I don't know. Like, take on the government to make sure.
No, but they just did that.
Yeah, I don't know.
Microsoft's lawyers just did that.
To get their merger.
Yeah.
My understanding was that E3 was a massive chunk of the ESA's purview.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, this thing is so much more chill than E3. Like, I mean, it is and it isn't. Like, there was way more there than one person could see. So, like, you were pretty much just like you could book 3 straight days of meetings and not see everything. So there is a lot of like back-to-back stuff. But at the same time, like the vibe is just like very low key in a pleasant way, and like the. You know, if you can get into like creature comforts are nice when you've got a packed schedule, you know, so like food and drink is complimentary there, so you don't have to like go off site to eat lunch and stuff. Like it was a very chill way to pack a lot of meetings in very quickly.
So, do you think this is a thing that could support a public day? Or it sounds like from the setup, it's so private.
Absolutely not the way it's constructed now. Because, like I said, like most games, especially the smaller developers, had one station, like one kiosk.
So this is not a PAX.
Definitely not. It's like this would be a PAX that could accommodate like 500 people or something. Like it's tiny.
But even still, it's not like you're milling about just seeing what's in front of you. You're going for appointments. Like
literally every single kiosk had like a check-in desk with a person who you had to be like, hey, I've got a 3:30.
Interesting. Well, let's jump back in here, Brad. Can I ask you one that you put on the list here?
Sure.
That was one that my son said that looks awesome. Can you add it to the wish list? And it's DeathSprint 66.
That game is awesome.
Is it awesome?
Yes, it is rad.
Because I saw it and I was like, I saw it during one of the presentations. Can't remember where I saw it. Maybe it was during the PC days or something. I was like, I don't know if that's for me. Like, you know. But he was like, that's so cool.
It's DeathSprint 66. It is an on-foot competitive racing game.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's like wacky races.
Sure. Or I saw a lot of people talking about Kinetica, which I've never played. Does that ring any bells?
Is that the one that was like locked 2D with the whip?
I typed Kinetica into Google, and apparently now that's an AI startup, of course.
Okay, sure.
Anyway, it's on-foot racing, but you accelerate with the right trigger.
Okay.
So it's in that sense, it's still kind of like driving a car. But because it's on foot, they start throwing things like wall running, parkour, and like grinding on rails like Tony Hawk style in there. And I only got to play it for like 10, 15 minutes, but what I saw, like the tracks are very much built to like have wall running that you can chain into grinding on a rail, that you can chain into launching off a thing, you know, like it's you can't literally stay in the air constantly, but they definitely want you not just running on the track all the time. There's also like a drift. It's funny. It's funny to see people drifting like a car, but you literally can just sort of like dig into the turns to kind of drift around turns on foot.
But then the whole thing kind of has this like weird Running Man, pun intended, death race kind of vibe to it, right?
I thought I saw people maybe kind of making light of that vibe from its stream showing or whatever. I only played it at the kiosk. I haven't seen any of the like trailer story stuff.
Okay, because I'll just mention, if you haven't seen the trailer stuff, there are like limbs going flying and, and saw blades that pop out of the ground.
Interesting. That's maybe a touch more violent than what I saw. But I mean, there are hazards everywhere. There are like laser windmills and lasers coming out the side of the track that you have to avoid. Like, yes, I think you do get shredded if you run into that stuff.
Yeah,
for sure. There seems like there's a decent amount of nuance to it, because there would be points where I was grinding on the edge on the rail on the edge of a track going around a turn, but there would be lasers coming, like not projectile lasers, but more lightsaber-y kind of lasers.
Sure. Like
raising down over the rail I was grinding on, and you can lean left and right on the rail, so you would have to like lean down to the side.
Like a laser grid.
Right. To kind of stay on the rail and not get killed by these lasers. Yeah. There's also power-ups. Like it's full-on Mario Kart. Like you pick up power-ups as you go around, and they straight up have a red shell equivalent and things of that nature.
So were you playing against anyone else, like linked up systems, or just...
They said shitty network conditions had prevented them from doing networked games.
Okay.
But I played AI, and that was plenty to get a feel for it. It controls really well, and the sense of speed is very good. So I was pretty impressed with it. It was a lot of fun.
Like I said, I only saw the trailer, and it's very... I don't know, Alex, can I use Grindhouse to... Is that a...
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, if you're talking like Death Race, like original Roger Corman-ass fucking Death Race, that's extremely what that is. It's sci-fi on a budget that is meant to be shown as part of a double feature.
Okay, sure. Yeah, it is pretty cyber, I will say. A lot of Daft Punky looking robot shit. But, sure.
All right, Brad, what else?
Sorry, the other thing I'll say, not free to play. Like, that's kind of... Expectations have changed so much around multiplayer games that you just assume something is free to play until they say it's not. It's actually going to be like $20 or sub $20, it sounds like.
And I think at a scale like that, you still kind of have to probably hedge your bets on actually selling a game, because with a lot of that big free-to-play stuff, I feel like they are expecting the number of players coming in to be the thing that offsets them not selling it.
Yeah. So I'm curious how this will do with a purchase price on it, and it doesn't sound like they have like heavy monetization plans, like no battle pass or anything.
Well, then they definitely got to sell it.
There was a thing that was free to play that I did not expect to be free to play. Was it Capybara's new game? Is that hold on, let me just look it up real quick. Is that Battle Vision Network? The one that's...
I saw that. I saw somebody tweeting about that.
What is that, like a Mega Man Battle Network like?
No, it's like their Clash. Geez, was it Clash of Might and Magic? Their what was their XBLA?
Oh yeah,
game?
yeah. Heroes of Might and Magic.
No. Might and Magic Clash of Heroes.
God damn it!
Yes. It was Might and
We're out
Magic.
of video game titles.
Oh wow, are they just turning that into a multiplayer game?
Yeah.
Oh, that's crazy.
But it's a Netflix. Oh, maybe it was free to play for Netflix folks. There were a couple of Netflix things that showed up. Anyway, that was just one I wanted to mention also, because I really like that XBLA game.
That may have... No, I'm not sure if that was there or not. I didn't see it around.
That has a 2025 release.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, that probably wasn't there at all then.
Yeah. Brad, what else you got on your list that you got hands on? Or
like
were shown?
Some big stuff. I mean, like I said, publishers were like big companies were there. Do you want to hear about AstroBot or Monster Hunter Wilds? Because I saw
AstroBot.
I would rather hear about AstroBot personally.
I don't know. We'll get to Monster Hunter. I was more impressed with it than I expected. I played AstroBot. I played a good chunk of AstroBot. I'll say right up front, I'm sure you could tell from the footage, like the look and feel and how it plays and everything is like right there with Playroom.
Mm-hmm.
Like you know exactly how this plays. Like I'll say the feeling of the haptics in the controllers when you run across a glass surface or a metal surface is basically the same. like very much built on Playroom.
I'll sidebar here for a second, so keep your thought. I actually just opened up two my PS5 controllers to fix their drift on their controllers.
Nice.
Those are complicated controllers.
Yeah.
Those are...
There's a lot of servos.
I don't know if I'd want to tackle that one. Or you
it wasn't
the full
horrible,
solder job?
But it was like, I didn't have to solder. I just replaced the pads inside the potentiometers this time.
Oh, I didn't know you could do that.
Yeah, and that seemed to work for now. We'll see how long it lasts. But just taking it apart, yeah, man, that's a dense.
That's a damn device.
Maybe you need to rescue some AstroBots to help you get that thing open.
Yeah, wish I could just go inside. Anyway, speaking of the haptics in it, I just remember seeing all the wiring for those when I was taking it apart.
Sure.
So it still has all the bells and whistles from Playroom?
Very much the same style of game.
Okay.
You get to each world in space, like you're a little rocket ship, basically. It's got kind of like a world map in space. You like fly to, I think there's like 6 different galaxies full of levels or something like that. I think haven't they said there's like 80 levels in this game or something?
They said it was pretty big.
But in the demo, everything was locked except what I presume is the first galaxy, and it was like 5 levels there. It was like 2 regular levels, 2 challenge levels, and a boss, basically, is what I got to play. You do have a home planet, which I was not able to see, which I'm super curious about because they said it's kind of the same thing as the PlayStation Labo in Playroom, where like all the Astrobots you rescue go back to your home planet.
Planet of the PlayStations?
Yes. Presumably any hardware you encounter might end up there. I didn't see anything like that necessarily, but I'm curious, like...
Do you have a little diorama again?
Yes, I'm very curious what the metagame, like, hub unlock situation is, because, like, these games are very fun to play. They play incredibly well, but, like, you know, it was all the PlayStation nostalgia, like, collecting the hardware aspect of Playroom that got me so excited, so I'm really curious what that home planet's going to look like, but they were not showing it there. Also got to meet one of the leads, maybe the lead on this game in Playroom. Got to tell him how much that stuff hit me. Mm-hmm. And also got to pitch my idea for VR support for the hardware viewer, which he said he would take under advisement.
You'll put that on the whiteboard, don't worry.
It was fun talking to him about resurrecting that old hardware, because like some of it they 3D scanned, some of it they modeled by hand. Some of it he had to like go into his private collection for some of the more obscure stuff, because it's not like Sony doesn't just have every piece of hardware they've ever produced, I guess, or it's not easy to find. Anyway, trying to think what else to say. Like, it seemed like every major level has its own like gameplay hook. It seems like a unique one, unless they start repeating them later in the game. Like one level, you basically would find an ability that usually mapped to the right trigger or both triggers in some cases.
Yeah.
Like the first level, you could blow up like a balloon, which allowed you to float for various obstacles. Another level, you got like spring-loaded boxing gloves on each hand, and those were mapped to the 2 triggers, so you could use them independently.
Okay, that wasn't in Playroom, right?
The
spring was like you were like launching yourself. I think that was the spring thing.
I got like a rocket pack on one level that happened to also be a robot dog.
Okay.
There was also a separate ability that was basically magnetism on that level. There were a bunch of points where you were like running around finding metal objects to like stick to a growing ball of metal objects.
Oh, like a Katamari.
Yeah, right. Until it got big enough, you could like throw it to solve puzzles. So it seems like if they keep that going, where every single level has its own little gameplay hook like that, there's going to be a ton of variety in the game.
It does seem like they just kind of blew out Playroom, right?
It really is just a massively expanded Playroom with more ideas. The last 2 levels the levels are all marked by difficulty on the world map. The last 2 were marked hard, and they were much more shorter and more linear. It was very much just straight behind the back, like run through an obstacle course. Very hard. Like
okay.
The last one took me like 15 tries probably.
Really?
There was a bunch of time slowing down mechanics on that one, where you're like navigating. They were both set in space, so there's just a sheer drop off of every platform. And there were a bunch of like platforms like spinning or flying back and forth, like at light speed, basically, like way faster than you could interact with them. And you had these like limited use slow down time potions, let's say.
Yeah, slow and potions.
Which unfortunately do run out in this case. Like you throw them and you get like 5 seconds of slow down, you know, so you can like get across the platforms before it runs out. Like that one was incredibly challenging.
Well, they have very little time to tune it, as that game is coming out in the first week in September.
Yeah, that game's got to be in like final polish at this point. You know, rescuing Astrobots left and right. Like I even on like the first level, I missed probably a third of the robots to find.
Okay.
So they seem pretty well hidden, and I saw like in the B-roll, I saw like entire areas of levels, like hidden areas with unique challenges that I didn't find. So it seems like a fair amount of digging to go back and find everything.
There's no multiplayer in this at all, right?
I don't think so.
They haven't indicated anything.
You mean just like kind of like local 2-player?
Anything? Like I'm just thinking
think
for
so.
like the kids or my family. Like there's okay. I don't. A co-op thing would be neat.
Mhm.
Yeah. That info might be out there somewhere. I'm not sure. It was just cool to, like, on every level, it was cool for there to be a mascot platformer, period, from a major publisher, from a platform holder for that matter. It's cool to see how excited people are about it. It was also cool to see a game that, like, presumably did not break the bank, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I'm sure the budget was quite healthy for this thing, but like it's probably not what God of War Ragnarok cost, right?
No.
I would
Spider-Man.
assume not.
And
Do
like
you think? Do you think this comes to PC?
I don't know.
Maybe eventually.
I don't know. I mean, there's no reason it couldn't.
I mean, it's just such a PlayStation
Yeah,
thing.
you're not wrong. I mean, like they're, you've seen it in the trailers, but they're doing the thing where all the AstroBots you're rescuing are straight up. I rescued a Jack bot
That's great.
of Jack and Daxter fame.
It's great.
I feel like the long suffering, like least recognized of the Sony mascot platformers.
Yeah. One-time mascot. I used to have that job.
There's a Parappa bot in there and stuff. Like, yeah, it would be a little weird for that stuff to be on PC, but actually, I think I'll save it for next week. I also, just because I have so many games to talk about, I also played Lego Horizon.
Great.
Which you saw announced.
Yeah. Which is
And
coming to Switch.
That's the thing. Like, having the Sony person I was talking to demoing the game for me and just casually mentioning it's also coming to Switch was just like, I instantly started picturing like Nintendo dev kits inside Sony development studios.
Sure.
It's just the weirdest fucking thing, you know? But in a
I
good
think
way.
that Lego buffer is the only way something like that happens.
You
Lego
probably
somehow
guess.
just bridges everything together.
You're probably right. I mean, he did mention the MLB games that come to everything, but obviously like MLB is the influence there.
It's
But that's the thing,
exception
they
that
didn't.
proves the rule.
Right.
They also didn't come to everything for a long time.
Yeah. We'll
Brett-
probably
yeah.
talk about Lego Horizon next week. But yeah, like I was just kind of like, I didn't meet with every major publisher there. But that's kind of what I had my eyes open for. The ones I did meet with was just like, what do you have that doesn't cost $200 million? Like that seems like what is necessary right now.
Well, I think the one you set up before may not fit that bill.
Yeah, it's hard to say. We're talking Monster Hunter.
Yeah, that seems like, if Capcom's going to put their money behind something, it's a Resident Evil or a Monster Hunter.
I mean, World
Or a
is
Street
officially...
Fighter, I would think, but maybe not.
Well, I like talking to people there. I mean, they've said this publicly. Like, World is the highest selling Capcom game of all time. Officially.
That's
I believe it.
saying a lot because Capcom is a major publisher with major games.
Yes.
Yeah. Some of those major games don't sell as well as you think. Street
Sometimes
Fighter.
not here, but sometimes in Japan,
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the Capcom is like, I was talking to a very old friend from PR. I mean, that was actually like the best thing about this weekend was seeing people I haven't seen in between 5 and 15 years.
Sure.
That I was working with literally back at GameSpot, like publicists and stuff. And like someone I know who is now at Capcom and hadn't seen since he went there. It was just like, it's like, man, like what a time to be at Capcom.
Yeah.
Like they are on such a legendary run of just quality to quality.
Yeah.
With every release. Like they are putting out so many excellent games.
It's interesting too, they're doing, I think, really good work, if not great work with their Resident Evil stuff, that they are going back, not necessarily new Resident Evil stuff, but they're doing right, I think, by some of those Resident Evil games, but they might be hitting the end of the road on, what those remakes are going to be. But they brought Monster Hunter to like a whole new audience, and I'm so curious to see if that momentum carries over into Wilds.
I mean, I'll say real quick before we talk about Monster Hunter, I think, didn't I see the rumor you expect has been going around that they're going to give the RE2 3.4 remake treatment to RE1 now?
That rumor has been going around.
I did not see that. You're saying they confirmed that?
No. That people have been...
Oh, maybe they just want it so much.
I can't
That'll
remember.
be the second remake for one.
I can't remember who it was. Yeah, right. That's the weird one because that one already got a remake. The others did not, But
it wasn't that. It wasn't the kind of modern remake treatment.
No, it was still a top-down or fixed camera angle, tank controls ish.
They should. They should do that.
They should do that. I fully agree.
That
I would play that.
That will do. They should do that before they do 5. Certainly, I don't think.
Yes, I don't think 5. I think they should stop after that. I don't think 5 needs a remake.
Yeah.
Much as I enjoyed 5 at the time. Also, I think we talked about that rumor a few months ago that they have like 5 Resident Evil games in development or something right now.
Oh, see, this is where they got into trouble last time when they saturated too much.
Yeah.
It's, relax. Make a Mega Man game.
Yeah.
Relax for a second.
Okay, all right. Monster Hunter Wilds.
Monster Hunter Wilds. So, look, we all played some of that Monster Hunter game to varying worlds to varying degrees, but Brad, you're going to have to talk to us like we're Monster Hunter idiots.
Yeah. I liked World quite a bit. I put like a dozen hours into it, but didn't finish it. Kind of got to the second major area and felt like I had gotten my fill of it. So I was kind of coming to this more from an academic, just like, it's a huge game. I need to check this out kind of standpoint. Like I was really impressed with it, actually. Like they fully got me back on board. And the biggest reason, I don't know how much gameplay they've shown. I saw like a 20+ minute demo. It's all just like
trailers.
big and seamless now.
Oh, really?
Like the demo started in a town, where you do your cooking and eating to get buffs and like go change weapons out. Yeah, like all that stuff. Like they literally just summoned their mount in the middle of that town, rode the mount out of town into the open world, and then they're just in the shit. Like
without like zoning into another
zero
place?
Load screen, zero anything. Like no formal. Like all right, time to go on a hunt. Like we're gonna wait for the countdown and then load in. Like you're just running out there.
Do you know if this is PS5 and Series X S exclusive?
Absolutely.
It is.
Yes,
okay.
definitely.
So you just assume most stuff unless it is some Madden game or something like that.
I think there is next to nothing that is fully cross gen at this point, short of like maybe Black Ops 6 is coming out on last gen. It probably is.
Okay.
But,
all right, so maybe this allows them to get rid of some of that.
Yes,
because those zones were fairly small.
Yes, and especially on like the handheld versions back in the day, like they were like you'd go on a hunt and there would be like 9 to 12 zones, tiny zones, maps that you ran between.
Well, because the monster would run away, right? It would be like the monster ran away, go into your new zone.
You have to like use a paintball on them to track him and stuff like that. But
again, not Monster Hunter experts here, but from what I remember from World.
Yes, this is same. So like, correct me or yell at your radio or whatever if I get anything wrong here. But yeah, like that was the thing that immediately leapt out at me was just like, it's just very seamless. You're just in and out of towns. You're out there in the world, and then you can just like start a hunt when you see the monster you're looking for.
That's cool.
Yeah, totally. You can build a mobile camp now. Like you can throw your own kind of tent up outside in the world and use that to like cook and do other things you would otherwise have to go back to town for.
Is that new?
I believe that they talked about it like it was new. They did not take any questions at this.
Okay.
At this demo, unfortunately, somebody tried to ask a question at the end and they shut it down immediately.
Really?
So I could not like pick anybody's brain about stuff I wanted clarity on. But
okay.
I believe the mobile campsite thing is new.
I thought you could cook in the wild, but maybe I'm wrong.
That's possible, but they may, and you can also like change weapons and outfits and stuff there.
Okay.
They made enough of a deal out of it that I assume at least some aspect of that is new. Okay. And also, like their demo kind of got thrown off course a little bit because in the course of the big hunt that they went on to do, that I'll describe in a second, like the monster destroyed that campsite. And they were like, well, normally in our demo, we would just like pop over here to show you another weapon and get back to it, but we're going to have to run back to town because this got messed up. Like, so that is a hazard, I guess. Let's see. Like the hunt that they did just like took place across a massive area. And like I said, you never hit a loading screen or anything. They're out in like a desert area. I wish I had written down these terms. I guess the world goes through these states of like plenty and scarcity.
Okay.
I can't remember like they had a term for it. It's like, oh, we're in a bountiful phase right now or something like that. And like literally that affects like how barren the world looks. Just art wise. Like there was like way more grass and foliage and stuff. But also it's like how many resources are around. It's like what kind of animals are showing up.
So it is the animals too. Okay.
Yeah, and like are there certain herbs you want to pick here or not at the moment, that kind of thing. I don't know what that's dictated by.
Yeah, that was going to be my question.
It might just be time based. Yeah, huh. I think there's also a day night cycle as well, and there's weather. That was actually
changes everything.
Yes, it actually really did here. Certainly more so than Forza. The thing they were hunting was like kind of looked like a bantha or something, just like a giant, like a very large beast of burden kind of looking thing, which they chased all over the place. And at a point, I don't know how scripted this was for the demo versus how like dynamic it'll be, just happening randomly in the final game. But they're like running across these dunes, and then they kind of pan the camera up, and there's just an enormous storm front like hurtling at you, filling the sky. And like as soon as it passes overhead, like it was like bright sunshine, in the desert kind of thing. And as soon as you're inside the storm, everything gets like super dark and blue. And like super windy, and there's like lightning striking like craters all around you.
They showed some of that in the trailer.
Okay, yeah, it was an incredible like shift in atmosphere, and they were saying like a lot of the monsters will behave differently depending on what kind of weather you're in. Like they might try to flee the lightning, or like certain monsters will only show up.
If you can like use it to your advantage.
Yeah, it was really impressive just visually in terms of how it changed the fight as well as like mechanically, it sounds like.
Were they riding a mount during the most of the demo?
Parts of it, yeah.
Okay.
Chasing the target around. There was some I think I saw a shot of this in the SGF trailer. There's like a giant like quicksand whirlpool trap that got triggered at one point. I wasn't clear if the player had done that themselves or if that was something that just happens by a certain monster or something. But that was like huge and kind of like mired the target up a little bit. What else here? Here's the big one that Vinny will appreciate.
Yes.
And again, I couldn't ask for further detail on this. You can just throw a flare up mid-fight and have other players join your game.
And that's it. We don't gotta...
And just help you do the hunt.
Mid-hunt. Doesn't have to be at the beginning. We don't have to be at the same story part. We don't have to be like...
That I don't know.
Okay.
There may be some requirements or restrictions there. And also, in this case, I think they didn't have multiplayer set up, so they had NPCs join the game instead.
Okay.
But they did literally say... like, hey, because we're not online, we're going to have NPCs join instead of real players.
Okay.
There could be a more formal multiplayer setup, kind of like wasn't it like a ship or something you were on in the first game? I can't remember where that took place.
You mean World?
Or in World, sorry.
I can't remember. The thing that I think we ran into all the time was, are you up to the same part I'm up to? Are you beyond where I'm at? No, I'm before. I can't join your game until I do this other thing. That was some of the problems we had joining up for narrative, like the narrative hunts. Yeah.
So there may well be some more formal join process that has more restrictions on it like that and stuff. I hope not.
It's tough if you're doing a story mission, then like I kind of get it, but that means syncing up with your friends and playing through without getting ahead is hard.
Yeah. I mean, like syncing story progress is always a challenge, but just letting people get in more easily is definitely necessary. Even if it's just a situation of like, hey, you're not going to get quest progress here, but you will at least keep all the mats that you loot and XP and whatever.
Or, like I've done this before in other multiplayer games too, when you're like, I'm just getting smoked here. I need a rando to just come in and help me out. And then, it's very, it's a little Dark Souls-ish where I think it was Elden Ring. I think Dan did this recently. Somebody was telling me. I didn't talk to Dan personally, so I'm sorry if I got this wrong, where he summoned somebody that's like, just stay back or something like that for this really hard fight. Just I think the name of the person was like, stay back, I'll solo. And they just summoned them and just they solo the boss, which I think is very, very funny.
Sure.
So yeah, maybe if I can call in reinforcements that just stay back, I'll solo the beast. I'm not above it. I ain't above it.
Yeah, you might get a wish.
So does this seem like it's more of World, bigger, better, newer console?
Definitely looked way better, like newer console for sure. I'm guessing they were playing it on a PC based on how it ran, but I feel like, gosh, I think my first real Monster Hunter was the first 3DS one. And then World, and then I will play this, having seen this, and not like no shade on Monster Hunter and its fans, but it feels like it's becoming more and more of a like real modern game every time.
Sure, less like obtuse or
less. I mean, obviously, like the individual weapon mechanics, every weapon having its own very different moveset, and like the animation priority and all that stuff is still is what it is, but just all the trappings around how you access the world and how you get people into your game and all that stuff, like. Quality of life, I guess, is another way to put it. Like, it just feels like more and more quality of life features with each new game these last few years.
one of the developers I saw say from one of the other games said, we're always trying to keep the ceiling high but lower the floor. So
sure,
you can get in there, but the skill ceiling remains high.
Is that the next game we're going to talk about? Actually,
is the next game an RTS?
Yes.
Is it because there are a lot of surprisingly a decent amount of RTSs?
Yeah.
Is it one made by is it one that is developed by ex-StarCraft devs?
Yes.
Okay,
well, that is also more than one of them.
Okay.
But yeah, last thing I guess I'm just reiterating at this point. But yeah, I was way more impressed with Monster Hunter than I expected to be.
That's cool.
Yeah. Is that out this year?
If it's not this year, I think it's early 2025.
Monster Hunter is 2025.
Okay.
Is the current date on it?
Right.
They had traditionally been putting those games out like Q1, the last couple of Monster Hunters, I think. So that would track.
That used to be Capcom's window, man.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Is it February? Then it's a Capcom game coming out. Brad, what is the next one you want to talk about?
Yeah, Battle Aces, which is a weird one because I played this game 2 months ago.
So this
Like,
is
off the
actually
record.
not the one that I was thinking of.
Oh,
Yeah. I was thinking of the other one that is way more Protoss.
so there's the big RTSs I know of in development right now are Battle Aces, Stormgate, and Zero Space.
I think Stormgate is the one I was thinking of that I saw where they said that thing
Okay.
about lowering the floor. And yes.
I think because that has also been lowering, or maybe it was raising the macro floor that was said to me. I can't remember.
So tell me about Battle.
Stormgate is coming out in early access next month, actually.
Oh, Stormgate. Sorry, I'm going to go back and I'm going to apologize. I think Stormgate was the one that was free to play. I think that was the one that when I saw that was like, oh no, every time I hear free to play, I just think like,
Is it?
oh man, I think Stormgate might be.
Oh, it is. You're right. I did not realize that was going free to play. That's look at that.
So it's weird. It is on early access.
Not yet.
$25.
July 30th. It's like a pre-order for the early access stuff.
Oh, but you get stuff with it. That's why you're paying.
Yeah, it's. They don't say what, but it's like early access pack, deluxe early access pack.
Okay,
But it will be free to play.
Stuff.
As will Battle Aces.
You get here. Wait, so is Battle Aces early access but not free to play?
It will. This is getting complicated. My understanding. I don't know how much I can say about their release plans actually yet.
Hey, look,
I'm not sure what they've announced yet.
So let's put a clear dividing line here. Just to be clear, Stormgate, July 30th, RTS game, also ex-StarCraft devs.
Yes.
That one should be free to play, but you can get early access packs or whatever. You get some extra heroes, it looks like, if you pay in. Now let's talk about Battle Aces.
Yeah, so it was weird at this event. I was lucky to get invited to a closed alpha for Battle Aces a couple months ago. Did not know what the game was called until like 4 days ago.
Oh.
Like at the time they had not finalized the title and it was just like Uncapped Games alpha test in my Steam library.
Oh, interesting.
So it was like interesting to finally find out the name of this game I had played for some time. Full disclosure, our friend and former colleague Bob Kaliko working on this game.
Mm-hmm.
And David Kim, the lead multiplayer designer of StarCraft 2, is the lead on this. So
okay.
So like serious pedigree in the RTS design. This game's crazy. If you have played RTSs before and all of the things that it doesn't do. And like when I got the pitch for this and then got to play it a couple months ago, I was like dying to talk to somebody about it because it sounds so crazy on paper. Okay, so you're not going to love this. It's multiplayer only. There's no story. I mean, there's like backstory,
All right, look, I'm out, but keep going.
They put out a cinematic trailer. Like there is in-world fiction, but as far as I am assuming, there is no like ongoing story or anything because it is very much a head-to-head game. Okay, let me figure out where to start here. Okay, you don't place buildings. There are no buildings other than your command center. Just like think about your typical RTS base. There's like a command center of sorts, and you put buildings down, and units build out of those with timers. There are no buildings to build. Everything comes out of your command center, which is already standing at the beginning of the match.
Okay.
You don't build workers at all. They just auto-populate onto the resources. They don't walk back and forth. There's no management there.
Can I pause for questions, or you want to keep going?
Should I keep going? Yeah, or go now. Feel free.
So wait, if you do you decide where you said your base is already there, the workers come out and hit the resources. So does that mean, is there any difference between I'm playing you, how resource management's going to go? Because I feel like that's a huge part of RTS games.
No, so there are two resources. Well, it might as well be money and gas. Like, they don't say what, but in StarCraft style, it's the two.
Yeah.
The only management there is how you spend them. Like, they just accrue at a set rate from your base.
Okay.
So at the next point, expansion is automatic on one key. You don't place, there are fixed expansion points, and you expand in a fixed order every time. Like, it's always going to be the same. Like, I think they're thinking about this in a like basketball, football kind of way.
Like first quarter, second quarter?
Well, no, of like the map is the map. Like, the court is the court. Like, the court in basketball does not change, right?
Right.
Like, what changes in professional sports is the plays you run, the types of players you have on your roster, like who you start.
Mm-hmm. Sounds like a little Dota-esque.
It's very much, it seems very much that philosophy. So, like, to expand, you hit the Z key and you just have expanded to the next expansion point. Like, you don't move the camera there. You don't have to look at where to put your second command center down. You literally just hit the Z key and then go back to what you were doing.
What dictates that? Is there some kind of threshold you have to hit, like resource threshold?
Yeah, you need money and gas to expand.
Okay.
But like, it's valid to, like, I went into a bunch of matches in the alpha, like hammering the Z key so I could expand on the first frame of the match, if that's the direction I wanted to go that match. What else? Units do not have build times. Like, if you have the money, if you have the resources for your unit and you hit the key to make it, it just comes out immediately.
That's the realest of time strategy.
Yes, extremely. There are two tech paths. There's basically, I think they use the word factory. It's basically factory in Starforge. It's, if you've played StarCraft, you know what I'm talking about. It's basically like ground tech versus sky tech, right? Like,
are there factions?
No. So that's the ultimate thing here is it's free to play, and it's all mix and match units into a deck.
Oh, wow.
Like, you are picking the 8 units you want to bring into the match.
Okay, this is kind of wild. This is very different than RTS.
This was the reaction I had when this was described to me before I got to play it. I was just like over and over. I was just like, wait, what are you talking about? That's
right, yeah.
What? So, like, yeah, instead of 3 factions that have a fixed lineup, you could just have any, I don't know what the factorial math problem is or whatever of the number of combinations you could have here with like 8 units and like 8 slots and 50 something units or whatever. But yeah, so the matchups are going to be like constantly changing. Your opponent gets a notification every time you expand or tech up.
Which makes sense, sure.
But that's very non-standard, though. Like, there's still Fog of War. Yeah. But it's very not like StarCraft.
Does that not happen in like a StarCraft 2? You don't like, hey, that your player has reached level 2 or something?
You constantly have to scout to see if they've expanded.
Oh, right, because you build scouts and drones,
or yeah, you've constantly got to just try to see what they are putting on the field to know if they've teched up or not, you know? Like, did they build a Starforge? I don't know that until I see something flying around, right? But in this, if they start teching to aerial units, the game tells you. You know, if they expand, the game tells you. Like, it's crazy. All of that said, I think the craziest part of this is that matches are capped at 10 minutes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Like, that's actually, I think, but all of this other stuff really is just building up to that, right? Because if you really look at the net effect of all of these, of all this streamlining is to just make the match go incredibly faster.
Do you like, is there some victory condition that's not base destruction at the end of 10 minutes? Like
that's the only like active condition is just blow up their main command center.
Yeah.
But if you run out of time and nobody's done that, then it literally just tallies like damage done, units killed, resources mined, number of expansions, and determines a winner by judgment.
Huh.
It works quite well, I will say. I really am looking forward to this going back into beta so I can play more of it. I will say it feels very StarCraft. Like, just the feel of the clicking, all the hotkeys are basically the same. Like, there are blink units, and my shitty amateurish Stalker blink micro came right back to me, and I was doing the same thing I was doing 10 years ago playing Protoss.
It's so funny. It sounds like it's the purest freaking strained StarCraft for you StarCraft multiplayer sickos out there. Like you're just doing it's uncut, like you're just
Kinda.
doing the real stuff. They cut out all the narrative and the story and all this. You don't even have to worry about it. It's just those matches were over in 3 minutes anyway when I played somebody. I don't even need the other 7.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's kind of exciting to me because, like, one of the worst feelings playing competitive RTS, which I did through Warcraft 3 and StarCraft 2 a lot, is like a long match where you think you're doing well and then you're not doing well anymore. You know what I mean? It's like I've invested 30 minutes in this match. I thought I had a shot here, and now I'm just getting dominated, and it sucks. Like, I feel awful. Like, this kind of avoids that problem, Like, if the match can literally be no more than 10 minutes at max, who cares if you get stomped? Like, just go on to the next one,
Right, and like there's no resource meta. You're just kind of where you're spending it, right?
Like some of the developers were telling me that they'll play like best of 9s over lunch in this game because the matches go so fast. And granted, they know what they're doing, so the matches probably go extra fast.
It's really interesting. Like, it's not for me, or at least it wouldn't be the thing that I would jump at that pitch because I like the story. I play the single player in these games, but RTS competitive isn't that big a scene anymore, is it?
Definitely not what it was like at the height of StarCraft 2 in terms of it like going international. Like my understanding is that everything is back to Brood War in Korea now for the competitive scene.
Okay. And there's just other things in that clicky space.
Yeah, like I know that is absolutely the bigger story is the MOBAs came about and ate the lunch of RTS.
Right.
But I'm excited to see people getting back to it. And again, this like I haven't had a good multiplayer game that I can like get in and out of like this very quickly. Like that was even the problem with Dota eventually was just like, man, sometimes the 75-minute matches in Dota are the most exciting thing you've ever played. But even then, that's a lot of fucking time to devote to one match of a game.
Yeah.
Like minimum 30, 40 minutes in most cases. Like this really, from what I've played, very effectively distills the feel and the arc and all the decision making of a game like this into a much more bite-sized kind of format.
It's really interesting.
Yeah, I am really excited to play this. It sounds like closed beta is not far off, and I think we can do video with that. So
their Steam page does have it as free or free to play. I'm trying to look and see if they have any other information coming out here. No dates, just says coming soon. Yeah, not seeing too much else. No early access stuff. No nothing like that on their Steam page.
Yeah, I mean, I have a pretty good idea of how they're rolling this out. I just don't know what the timing is necessarily.
Sure.
That may not be decided yet, but I am very eager for this to come back out so I can.
It's just so funny that there are so many RTS things. I mean, maybe it's the time, right?
Yeah, everything in video games is cyclical. Like, stuff is out of vogue for long enough, and then somebody's just like, you remember those things? Those were awesome. Let's try that again.
I'll just mention again, Stormgate, the other RTS game with some StarCraft pedigree out there, seems very much more traditional narrative StarCraft.
Yeah.
It's like 3 factions,
yes.
Very Protoss, very like Terran, very third alien faction, narrative driven, that kind of thing. So
yeah, I had not realized that was so close. I'm really curious to see how that turns out as well.
Yeah, same here. All right, we'll keep moving.
Sure.
All right, Brad, what else you got?
That might be about everything that I am unembargoed on and that I have.
I got one more that you gave me before.
Is it Volgarr the Viking 2?
It is Volgarr the Viking.
I cannot believe they announced another Volgarr the Viking.
How long has it been since that last one?
Like at least a decade.
Yeah.
It's been at least 10 years since we did that stream, and I think the game was maybe not brand new then. I'm not sure. This one has Digital Eclipse like heavily involved.
Okay.
Our
Atari's Digital Eclipse.
Yes, our friends over at Atari's Digital Eclipse are like pretty heavily involved in the development, is my understanding. It is the original developers, though, to be clear. Like, okay. The people who created the game are back and doing it. It's just EE is also doing a lot of development support there. I played it. It is definitely Volgarr.
It looked very Volgarr.
It is definitely hard. It is definitely quite hard. I did not finish the one level they had
Nice.
On the demo after a dozen tries. It's been a long time, and I don't think I saw anything distinctly super new that wasn't in the original game. Pretty standard, sword and shield, and like you find items, and those also serve as your health.
Could you throw your spear into a wall?
Yes,
and jump
yes,
on it?
you've absolutely, like the Digital Eclipse guy complimented me on my spear throwing. He was like,
Great.
"Oh, look, your spear throwing is like coming right back," or whatever. It has the exact same feel. Definitely like throw spears to make platforms and stuff like that. This one has checkpoints. I think is probably one of the bigger differences. I believe the first game did not.
Yeah, I don't know.
Which I asked, I was like, "Is there like a classic mode where you can turn those off if you want it to?" Turns out you can just destroy the checkpoints when you get to them if you don't want to use them.
Is that true? You can just break them?
Yes.
Oh, wow. That's even funnier.
It gives you money, like it adds to your score if you do that. But yes, you can just Viking rage out.
I like that it's a mechanic
Yes.
of destroying them.
Yes. Yeah, I would definitely will play that. That very much seems like more of that from what I could tell, which is awesome.
That is also soon. That's August 2024. Yeah.
Wow.
Yep.
Cool.
Just let me double check, make sure it's not early access. Nope. It seems like August 6th, real release coming out. All right. I say let's take another break here and let's come back and let's just kind of go over, other things that were at the Microsoft one, which we didn't really touch on yet. Some other stuff from Summer Game Fest. And then, of
There's
course,
those demos we've been playing, which is part of the Steam Next Fest.
And Ubisoft stuff. We'll talk about that. So let's take another break here and we'll be right back. All right, we are back. And before we get into our bigger thoughts on the showcases, some more things that we have put hands on to both through the Next Fest demos that are coming out. Some of these things were also shown. Look, kind of everything was shown somewhere over the last week.
We got a big game show and dump happen. That just happened everywhere.
It's crazy. Like the Guerrilla Collective stream happened Thursday, the day before I left.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where Volgarr got announced, which is how I kind of knew about that stream. And then I went and looked the stream up after it was done, and it was like, here's all 70 games that were shown at the Guerrilla Collective stream. It's like, holy like there are a lot of video games getting shown.
There's a lot of stuff. There's Guerrilla Collective. There was the Accessibility Summer Showcase. There was the Summer Game Fest, which had a bunch of stuff. Day of the Devs, the Devolver Direct, which we didn't even talk about. The Future of Play, the Wholesome Direct, the Latin American Game Showcase, the Women-Led Game Showcase, the Future Game Showcase, the Xbox Game Showcase, the PC Gaming Showcase, which was like 2.5 hours long. Ubisoft Forward, and I think stuff is still happening. I think there's still stuff on the slate. So, Steam Next Fest is also happening. The demos are out there for some of these games. Like I said, I played the Arranger demo. But this I played before the all this stuff started happening. And Alex, sounds like you played some Tactical Breach Wizards.
Yeah.
What'd you think? I really enjoyed it.
Trying to think what else we could call this. Heal Team 6.
Okay, that's pretty good.
Yeah, because that's what this is. This is wizards that are tier 1 operators. Like, they are wizards that are being sent in to do Black Ops shit.
Okay.
And they are dressed up like the Ray-Ban wearing fucking modern troops that you see in modern conflicts.
God. I'm looking at the key art here. That's pretty good.
Like the wizard you play in the demo, like has basically a fucking M16 that casts spells,
but
it's
got a wand in it.
Dude, this guy is dressed like Gandalf if Gandalf's like hat and robes were desert camo.
Like if Gandalf was like one of the troops they sent out to Pandora to fucking get the unobtainium, that's what you would have here.
Seems really dumb.
So this is Tom Francis heat signature.
Oh, no kidding.
Gunpoint.
Oh, wow.
This is Tom Francis.
Oh, geez. Okay.
This is, but it's very much a door kicker-esque, I forget the other one. When I streamed it last week, I could remember it. Now I can't. Tactical breach game, right?
Yeah.
Where like kick, go. And it's very, Chimera Squad was in this vein too. It's very much, smaller scope, at least what I played in the demo. Like the vignettes are very tactical and almost a into the breach or tights and fight spaces environment where you're like,
tights and fight spaces.
Sorry, fights and tight spaces.
You actually did that earnestly. That wasn't you doing a bit.
No.
Okay, that's just going to be the title of the episode
Yeah.
now.
I think there's also a game calling out Knights in Tight Spaces.
I think that's their sequel. Yes.
Is it? Okay. So it's very much positioning, ability. What are you going to do? When are you going to do it? But with wizards and weird. One of them, I think the one you were just talking about, is a chronomancer or something. It has time magic.
That's your partner who can see 1 second ahead in the future, and they have like what appears to be a shotgun with a wand in it. It's amazing.
And that allows you to kind of foresee what's going to happen if you were to commit to these moves. Which is super helpful in the demo that I played. It's neat. It's cool. It's fun because the move set is. It's not anything that is you really haven't seen before with other trappings, but with the wizardry stuff, just kind of adds this really fun layer to it, and it's well written. It's like it's kind of an enjoyable, goofy / trying to make fun of some of this, or feels like they are sending up some of this tactical stuff. I liked it. I like the
military wizards, man. This is what we're doing.
Military wizards. There's a rogue wizard. Basically, the setup is the old gruffy tier 17 operator wizard or whatever with the big beard. His partner, he had to make a choice, and he chose to save the hostage, and that partner disappeared, but that partner's back. But now is that ex-partner evil?
We don't know.
Yeah.
Turns out. It's really the trappings, it's the style, it's the concept, because as soon as I booted that thing up and I saw what they were doing, I just cackled out loud.
Yeah.
Like, it's great.
It's cool. I had a lot of fun in the demo. I don't know when that game comes out. Do you know offhand?
Not offhand.
August 22nd.
Okay.
It seemed pretty solid. Like, they maybe wasn't a lot left to do on it.
Pretty good. All right. That's Tactical Breach Wizards. Alex, what's the other one that you play? I'm going to look at my notes because you told me 3 times. I Am Your Beast.
It is yet another strange scaffold game. The makers of El Paso Elsewhere and Life Eater and a bunch of other things. I saw someone on Twitter say this line, so it's not mine, and I'm sorry I can't credit them because I can't remember who said it, but they said that strange scaffold games are like espresso shots. They are very polished, but very limited in scope in a very specific way. And I think that is in keeping their games do seem to get more advanced with each new one. This definitely feels like the most elaborate thing they've tried to make so far, but I see how they are able to do it quickly because it is a Neon White-like. It is a series of combat encounters with the timer, if you want to try and speedrun it as best you can. There is a score for how fast can you do this, how fast can you get to the exit, etc. And with the wrappings of a Metal Gear style, you are this rogue, agent, like have done your one last job like 5 times for the agency that keeps coming back to you. And you're out in the woods, and then they send more agents after you to do another job, and you're just like, fuck this, I'm not doing it. And then it seems like you just start picking them off in different combat scenarios. And it's very fast-paced. Like, you are running through these levels. You basically are grabbing weapons, trying to slide over stuff, jump onto perches, and kill people, and do the tasks you need to do as fast as possible.
Interesting, yeah. I'm looking at some of it now. Very Neon White-ish.
Yeah, it definitely feels inspired by it.
But with their art style,
Yeah. And it's got Ixtalavier, the game's designer, doing the main character's voice work again, though there is also other voice acting in it. And it's great. It has this very casual approach of just, I'm probably the best killer you've ever had, and you're going to keep sending these waves of guys at me. Okay, let's do this.
Is it dark like the rest of their games?
I mean, it's dark in its own way. I mean, you are shooting and stabbing a lot of people, but it's done so fast that it's like there's really no rumination on any of this.
The pace of their releases.
I don't know how they do it. I truly do not know. They are just they are a burgeoning juggernaut, is what they are.
That is August 15th. There is a demo for that. And then Citizen Sleeper 2. That was shown somewhere at some point on a thing, I'm pretty sure. But Alex, you and I were able to play a preview build of that.
Yes, I played kind of a shorter one of it. Yeah, you could finish that demo in under an hour if you're just kind of dedicated to trying to play through the story.
I always get the bad rolls. Man, I always get the bad rolls.
I got some bad rolls too.
They're always... Maybe I'm just bad at Citizen Sleeper.
You just gotta... I think the main thing with this one is where they really want you to pay attention to the attunements of the characters that are casting the die, because a lot of the tasks that you are presented with in this one are like, hey, you don't know how to interface with computers. This is probably... Even if you have a high dice roll, this is probably not for you.
Yeah, because you'll get the penalties on them. What character did you... There's a 3
I went with the big guy. The beefy one, the one that can do all the physical tasks.
The endurance I went with the machinist.
Okay. That was the one I almost went with.
And then there's the middle one, which is like the hacker. I forget what they call it, but it has the skills that pertain to that thing. Yeah, it seems, in the short slice they give you in the preview build, it seems like some of the ability checks are balanced for each class. Some I was like, oh, awesome, I can gamble all day because I have this insight ability or whatever it is. And then I was like, I can't lift stuff at the dock at all because I have none of these skills. But the setup is basically you're a sleeper again.
Not the same one as before, or at least that's not what they're alluding to at the beginning of this.
Yeah, and then this time you're on the run from a person, not a corporation.
Yes.
Seems like you're kind of...
There is another person with you, and you're both on the run. Yeah,
so I think the difference is, because a lot of it's very similar, but the differences are this feels much more group focused, because they kind of introduce this idea of crewmates. Well,
there's multiple characters casting die now, which was, I don't think it's something that happened in the first game at all. So, one of the main thrusts of this build is a job that you have to take. I should say, this takes place in a solar system. It is not on a single station the way the first game was. So there are other locations you need to travel to in order to take care of some of the jobs that you were given.
Yeah, you take on contracts and stuff.
But there are also resource considerations around that. You need to have fuel. You need to have supplies so that you don't go hungry. You'll start bleeding energy if you don't have enough food for yourself. And then, so the main job that they have you do is you go to another ship, and you are trying to crack into this data core in this old derelict ship. And there's a lot of stuff that you have to do kind of to prepare for that. Then you also have to sit there and do the tasks, and a lot of them are like, you can brute force this lock, but also this whole thing could shatter. But if you have the right people working on it with the right abilities, you can negate some of the risk, and that makes it a little more, a little easier for you to get in there. But then there might be other things inside the ship that are then harder for a character of your class to deal with.
Yeah, so putting together crew, the other thing that I noticed was, aside from the stuff you just mentioned of not being just locked into the one physical ship or space station, is there's this it's not fatigue, it's the
there's
stress, that's what it is. Yes, where if you get below, and they had this in the first game, where if you got below a certain amount on your hunger and stuff, when you went to bed, you'd wake up with a dice slot missing. This time you get stress on it, which is cool, but like it says, a stressful mechanic where you basically get a pip off of one of your dice, and if you use that die during one of the checks, and I think it's if you fail it, you lose another one, and eventually it'll break. Is that how it works?
So, yeah.
I never broke one completely.
Me either.
But it seems like you're basically damaging the die until it's going to break, and then you can repair it, I assume, later. But man, I was failing so many checks just left and right. And I was like, I'm terrible at this. I have no money left. I'm starving, and I'm failing all my checks. I'm the worst Citizen Sleeper.
Yeah. Look, it's a game that is very much about sometimes the failures lead to their own consequences, and story branching. Obviously, there are some that are just you can't do anything now. But there's others that are just more about hey, that's how that mission went. Now it's time to move on to the next thing.
The dice tell a story.
Yeah, the dice are telling a story. That's very literally what this game is doing and what the first game did. And it feels like they've evolved it in certain ways, but it is still that core notion of it's a visual novel style delivery of story with the dice basically determining where stuff goes.
Yeah, and I really like that whole conceit and the trappings around it. So I actually really enjoyed my time with it. I was kind of glad that it's a short thing because I just want to play the full game. You know, like I don't want to invest too much time. It's a nice
little taste of it, but it doesn't take you too deep into it.
Yeah, so looking forward to that, though. That's a 2025 game, so that's a little still a little ways off. I
never did play that story DLC they ended up doing after the fact for the
There's
first
three
one.
of them, I think.
Yeah.
I think I might have only played the first or second one because I went back and I finished up Citizen Sleeper, and I think by the time I finished it up, maybe the first one was out already.
Yeah.
But I should go back and finish them up. All right. I think that's all we have for hands-on.
There was one other thing.
Yes?
I played that G.I. Joe beat 'em up.
Oh, you did? Was it terrible?
No.
Okay.
Was it good?
Was it good?
Does it need to be good?
I'd like it to be a little better.
Okay.
Look, I didn't even play it. I just looked at the screenshots. I saw who you could play as.
Yeah.
I was like, you know what? If I just ran around as either Duke or Lady J or Roadblock or Snake Eyes or who else did I see in there?
I believe it is Snake Eyes, Scarlet. Lady J, and Duke in the demo.
And I think Scarlet and maybe one other one. Anyway, that's all you need.
Well, yes and no, because I think that what they show here in this demo is a perfectly cromulent beat 'em up, but it is not anything that felt special or memorable other than it has the trade dress of a property you know. I played as Snake Eyes. I did not have a particularly hard time with it, though I was playing on the default difficulty, perhaps if I bumped it up. But the boss encounters I ran into were not that memorable. The mechanics of it feel pretty good. I'd say it's snappy the way it needs to be, but like I just didn't find a lot in there that didn't feel like anything other than just we applied a generic beat 'em up template to a property that is popular.
This is G.I. Joe Wrath of Cobra, by the way. A beat 'em up, kind of retro looking.
It seems okay. That's what I would say about it.
Every once in a while, there's a G.I. Joe game that gets announced and comes out, and I get a little excited, and then I play it, and I'm like,
yeah, Hasbro likes money.
I'm like, just make the XCOM game. Just make the G.I. Joe.
That's harder.
Just
those are harder games to make than a thing that is just like that Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles beat 'em up.
But all the G.I. Joe characters already have their special ability and their dumb thing written right in there.
Yeah. They should, or they could make an Overwatch. Do one of them, you know? Yeah, one of those things.
I don't know if the market would support that at this point.
Yeah, there might be too many. Make your G.I. Joe extraction shooter, but you can't kill anybody. You just miss. You just miss all the time.
I think the canary in the coal mine on that one is going to be how well does that Marvel Overwatch do? Because if that one doesn't do well, none of them are going to do well.
Well, the main thing for me is what is the age bracket that cares about G.I. Joe is entirely separate from the age bracket that plays hero shooters at this point.
They might
play XCOM. You're right.
Yeah, they might play an XCOM, a tactical game. All right, that is still a 2024 release with no release date on it, but that is
there were some other demos I downloaded, but I have not had a chance to get to because there's a lot of fucking demos, dude. There's so many.
There was a lot. I downloaded Tiny Glade, which was already on my wish list. That game looks very chill. I got Tactile Breach, which Riven. There's a remake of Riven out in the vein of that remake of Myst that they did. I still am super fascinated by the Myst games, but real time. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like just take the visuals of the Myst games and let you run around in them. I've got a bunch of stuff.
There is a lot.
We'll probably have more to say about more of them next week.
But there's some urgency this time. I don't know if last time, so like 2 Next Fests ago, I downloaded like 24 demos and just banked them. You know, I was like, it'd be nice to have these around for streams later. This last Next Fest, I did the same thing, and like all of the demos expired.
Yeah,
the vast majority of them did. Yeah,
I don't know if that's. I doubt it is a Valve mandate because they're not big on mandating stuff like that. But yeah, like almost every demo I had like became unplayable after the Next Fest was over.
I definitely remember having that happen to me as well because I think we were planning on streaming some later on too, and then they were like, nope, they're inaccessible.
Yeah. So one other real quick thing. Speaking of licensed beat 'em ups, did you know that Transformers Devastation's like impossible to play now?
I think I did know that,
dude.
Like
Vinny,
you can't download it? Or?
I'm sure you have that game, right?
Oh, like own it?
If you own it, you're fine.
Okay, yeah.
Like apparently it's been off of sale for years now and is just basically impossible to come by if you didn't already have it.
No, I did not know that.
It's the Platinum one. You know, it's the Platinum Transformers beat 'em up.
The very cel-shaded one.
Yeah, that looked like just like the show.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like basically not playable anymore if you didn't already own it.
Interesting.
So here's the fun thing. It was only like 2 years after that game came out that it went off digital storefronts.
That's right. That's what I was reading, is that like it was barely available for a time at all.
I wonder what happened there.
Licensing stuff, I'm sure, but that's a bummer.
Oh, licensing stuff.
I don't even want to play it, but now that I know I can't, I must have it.
It was pretty good.
Did you not own it?
I thought, I'm not sure. I need to go through my console libraries and see, but
I definitely owned it somewhere.
I do not have it on Steam.
All right. The thing that I want to save a little bit of time for, or a decent chunk of time here, is just to kind of go over what we saw, didn't necessarily get hands-on with, but basically the bigger, broader strokes of this window here of game stuff, because some of it is worth talking about a little more closely, like I think Microsoft Showcase, which had a lot of question marks going into it. Seems to be not just me, but a good sentiment out there that they showed kind of what they needed to show here, which was pretty much everything they have in development, whether it's got a date, no date, or is coming out this year. They kind of just put most stuff as proof of life, or it's on the table. Or
it wasn't everything, but it was a lot of it.
Trying to like no Everwild.
No Everwild.
Still not sure if that's ever actually still happening.
No Outer Worlds 2.
Yeah, no Outer Worlds 2. I mean, Obsidian's got Avowed coming out this year, so obviously they would focus on that. No Clockwork Revolution, I believe it's called, right, from In Exile. But that's also a ways out, I believe.
At all.
But yes, it was. It was a very effective showcase. I don't mean this in a negative way, but I was actually shocked at how positive the response was from people. Like I thought it was good, but like, you know, I was seeing people say it was like, the best showcase in a decade type stuff.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
I don't know if I go that far.
But definitely strong.
I think it's their best showing since COVID. I think it's the best showing since like everything kind of got knocked loose back in 2020.
Yeah. They showed games, you know, they brought stuff that needed to be brought.
Mm-hmm. So we don't need to spend too much time on everything, but I think some of the highlights there for me was, you know, we got a new Doom announced, Doom the Dark Ages.
Yeah, that had leaked. That would have been a great surprise if that had not leaked.
Oh, I didn't see the leak before the showcase.
Yeah, so you remember the Doom Year Zero name came out of the hearings and document stuff with the acquisition.
Yes, I do remember that.
The name Doom the Dark Ages leaked like a week or two ago.
Okay.
Which kind of gave you a sense of what it was going to be, but I am very curious about this.
This this medieval Doomslayer,
much more medieval, which is an interesting direction to go. At least I liked Eternal, but I didn't love every change it made from 2016. So I'm very curious to see what direction they're going in with this, and on multiple axes, both gameplay and especially like tone. It was actually like the tone of Eternal was maybe a little too serious and lore heavy for me.
Well, I'm hoping this is lore heavy, not serious, but it is a prequel, right? To go back, and this is going back, I think, into like the origins of is it the Doomslayer? I keep calling him the Doomslayer.
Now it is, yeah.
Okay.
Like
Doom Guy.
It was just Doom Guy for the longest time. Like that was this is kind of perfectly illustrates the point. Like I loved in 2016 that they re-envisioned Doom Guy, who was the most everyman nobody video game character ever, as this like divine avenger. I don't need to see how he came to be that way, though.
I kind of want to see it.
Like, I thought it was way more effective to just drop that on you out of nowhere and not comment on it. But we'll see.
I think there's a real good chance they might have something very funny planned for what the actual lore of the Doom Guy is.
I hope so. I like when they are messing with when they don't take their stuff as seriously as
Yeah, for sure. There were bits and pieces of that in Eternal, but not It was not as consistent of a tone as I would have liked. There's some interesting gameplay stuff in here, though. It seems like very counter heavy, with that shield.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're both blocking projectiles, and it looks like also like doing melee counters with it.
Yeah. Shield out while you got your gun out, which is nice. Brad, they showed, or the name came up, and it was a trailer for State of Decay 3.
Yes. It's like maybe the game I wanted to see the most going into this entire thing.
So I don't know if you got any more information while you were there.
No.
Okay, no.
I did take a couple of Microsoft appointments, but certainly not for this.
Okay.
I should have saved this tweet. Let me see if I can find it real quick. It's like yes, thank you, Twitter. My likes are now private. Good to know. There's like kind of an Xbox like mega influencer, Clobriel. Alex, you've probably seen him on this person on Twitter.
Possibly.
Has been tweeting a bunch of info about, like in-depth info about Xbox games that was not at the showcase.
Interesting. And
I don't know where it's coming from. They're not sourcing it. It's possible some of this is coming off of Xbox Wire or something. But anyway, like a bunch of info about that State of Decay 3 trailer. The trailer was all in-game assets, all rendered in Unreal Engine 5.
Okay.
So some of it was like, parts of it, like when they were like sniping off the top of that car, you could definitely tell were gameplay.
Yeah.
But large bits of this were just like, is this just a CG tone piece? But apparently that was all game.
In engine?
Yeah.
I believe it.
But the biggest detail, they are working with both the Coalition on the visuals, the Unreal Engine stuff, and they are working with Obsidian on the grounded, like shared multiplayer world feature.
Oh, that's good.
Interesting.
They did it well.
Yes, because State of Decay 2's like multiplayer setup was kind of abysmal.
Yeah.
For doing a multiplayer world with multiple people, and Grounded's multiplayer feature was incredible. I mean, Grounded's thing is basically just a private dedicated server for you and your friends, like more or less.
But where somebody can take ownership of it too.
You can just like add people to your world as owners, and then anybody can play in that world at any time.
Yeah, and you can take it offline.
Right. Regardless of who's online at any given time. That's cool. That's huge. Like that is absolutely huge.
So that one, obviously, well, maybe not so obvious. No date on that one. That is still TBD. Not even a year.
Yes, indeed. I hope the goofiness of that game is still there. I mean, like if this is what you would do for a mass market, like you need your like somber, grim zombie Walking Dead shit.
Yeah.
To like sell this to a big audience, but there's just so much like systemic wackiness in that game that I hope is still there in the final.
I'm going to say, I don't know if you actually do need that tone to sell this kind of thing to an audience anymore.
Maybe not.
Because I think people are actually deeply burned out on that Walking Dead style of somber zombie story. Like, I understand they still make spin-off series of that thing, and it does reasonably well, but I don't think those things are hitting the way they used to.
Maybe not.
Might be a little saturated. I want to mention this, not because I think Starfield needs more to be talked about. They had a whole thing last year, but I think this Shattered Space expansion seems really cool. Like
really?
I think the space horror aspect of it might pull me back in to just want to check that out. Depends how they do it, but if you give me some good tight narrative stuff in here and focused narrative within Starfield, I'm kind of in. I liked what they showed of that.
I think Bethesda's got like pretty good DLC track record.
Yeah.
Like most, I'm trying to think back through like.
Did they try to do much straight up horror stuff in like Fallout though?
I'm trying to think. I didn't play any of the Fallout 4 DLC. I think maybe some of the Fallout 3 DLC was a bit in that direction.
Grim. Yeah, they had
well, there's Grim stuff. Like The Road, and then there's Grim like Event Horizon. Like there's different things we're talking about here.
Yeah. But I thought this showed well. I'm not the biggest Starfield fan. I'm like not necessarily even a Starfield fan. And I think this got me kind of interested in jumping into that universe and seeing how these mechanics would play on a narrative-focused piece of content.
Yeah, I mean, I'll definitely give them credit for not just abandoning that game when the response was not overwhelmingly positive. Like, they did that update recently on the technical end and adding, like, city maps and stuff, and, like, they did a big update the night of this showcase.
Well, that game still sold well, didn't it?
Yeah, it was like the 10th or 11th best-selling game last year, but they added I don't know what the Vulture is. It's some kind of faction thing, but also like creation kit stuff, like mods. Like they've added mod support basically to the console.
Yeah, they're still at it.
Like they are slowly but surely improving that game.
I think they're pot committed. I think they have to at least support this thing for a while, because it's not like there's gonna be another Bethesda Game Studios game coming right out anytime soon.
I really wondered if there would be some like extremely hard swerve, just like maybe not Fallout 5, but something Fallout from them, just like even if it's the most teaser-ass tease you've ever heard.
Well, and they said Elder Scrolls is supposed to be the next thing they're making.
Yeah,
right?
I know. Yeah. Right. I mean, what I mean is that would necessitate basically bringing another studio in. Like, basically it would be like an Obsidian doing New Vegas type situation of like, we've got somebody doing a Fallout game with our tech.
They did, and I'll just mention this briefly. They did mention more stuff for 76 Skyline Valley. So they are not leaving the Fallout momentum just hanging out by itself.
Yeah, it seems like that and Elder Scrolls Online both just quietly are sitting there making them money steadily.
I would agree with that sentiment.
And by all accounts, 76 has improved a great deal, certainly from where it was. Whether it's perfect or not, there's still plenty of debate. But
yeah, we streamed it like a month-ish ago or something. Like it is, it's vastly better than it was at launch. I'll say that. But
and let's just roll in while we're talking about that stuff. The World of Warcraft War Within. Yeah,
it's just weird to see Blizzard stuff on the Xbox showcase, but I guess it's Microsoft's World of Warcraft now.
I'm going to say it. I knew it wasn't going to be that, but there was a part of me while that trailer was showing where I was starting to think to myself, did they break that glass panel? Are they talking about doing a World of Warcraft 2 the second they buy Blizzard?
Or some kind of like console support or something is what I was wondering about maybe, but
I was because the way they showed all the cinematics from all the expansions in your base game, and in my mind I could not tease them out from the cinematics from the RTS games, and I was like, are they going to show a Warcraft 4 here? But no,
definitely not.
That's definitely not.
I can say with extreme confidence that is not going to happen anytime soon.
Look at all these RTS games coming out.
Probably never.
Just think of what you could do with Dota with the Warcraft 4.
The Zoomers, they love real-time strategy.
Are you saying we're not going to get a Dota 3 until there's a Warcraft 4?
Yes, you got to seed all the characters.
Valve is going to prototype Dota 3 and a War 4 custom map.
All right, speaking of things that were not expected or pot committed, let's say, from Microsoft, Perfect Dark apparently is alive and well.
Wow.
We don't know how well, but it is alive.
Yeah, but I mean
it showed well.
After the like rumblings about like, oh, it's in trouble, the development's not going well or whatever, like they've brought it.
Yeah.
Like they showed that game.
They sure did show it.
To play some Perfect Dark, and I'm not a Perfect Dark player or fan.
It was funny, somebody on my Twitter feed was talking about like, they basically were just like, okay, what was notable about Perfect Dark at the time? It was like weird guns and
expansion pack.
They basically was like, hey, it was basically GoldenEye with the serial number filed off. Like,
kinda.
Perfect Dark did not have like a deep abiding fandom based on like its lore and stuff. So like, what even is a Perfect Dark in this day and age? But it seems like they have picked a lane and gone for it. Like they are turning it into its own thing here.
Yeah. No, that showed well. It was a cool trailer again.
Which is like, I feel like just everybody's asking the question, like, is it an immersive sim? I don't know.
We don't know.
Like there's hacking, there's like lock stuff, there's stealth stuff.
It still seems like kind of a shooter.
Yeah, that was my initial impression, was that it was probably more just like narrative shooter with some gadgets and stuff.
So that is still TBD. No date, even a year attached to that. Fable got another showing here, but it's 2025. It's kind of a similar trailer tone piece to what they've showed before. So
yeah, more gameplay this time.
Yeah, sure. but I would say nothing to really base any impressions on quite yet for me,
not
at least.
Quite.
I think I'm at the stage with that game now that I just need to see someone play it for 10 minutes to prove that, like, to know exactly what it is.
I definitely need to see just like UI and like a character sheet and a quest screen kind of thing to like.
I'm officially past the story trailer portion of my interest in that game.
My biggest question about that, what they showed, is there a character creator anymore, or is it just this? Is this the character?
I don't know.
That's I said that. I asked that same question. Because I said that same thing during the thing. I asked it to Alex. Is there going to be a character creator anymore? And we talked about the fidelity of in-game cutscenes at this point, in-engine cutscenes.
Yeah, it's fine if they've just decided hey, we're just going to have an authored protagonist and write a story around them. It's just very different from Fable,
Yeah.
Where I really think of Fable as a somewhat systems-driven thing, with a mute protagonist that's got a really weird vibe to it.
That was their whole pitch, right? You are the hero, right? And you're building your own Fable,
right? So that just makes me wonder, are they just going in a significantly different direction from that here? It's not clear.
I mean, we're very far afield of the time when Fable was coming out, and it was a Peter Molyneux joint. It is. We are way evolved from that time.
I do think it would be weird to not have a character creator if you're going to make your own legend in a game, right? If that's your hook.
I don't think she speaks in this, does she?
I don't think so.
I mean, they never let you character create Link.
Oh wait, no, she does. She totally does.
Oh, she does? Okay. It seems like maybe you'll get a base and you'll be doing some stuff, and that Humphrey guy, I don't know, maybe is some kind of patron. Again, kind of a tone piece.
Yeah.
A bunch of
got a lot from
here.
that Avowed thing they showed.
Yeah, they did that big direct on Avowed a few months ago, so kind of did not go hard on it here, I guess.
There was that Life is Strange double exposure.
Couldn't have seen that one coming.
No, that's cool. I'm a big Life is Strange fan. I'll go back, play some more Life is Strange.
Yeah.
See what's going on in that
See
world.
what they do with it.
Got an extended Indiana Jones Nazi punching piece.
Mm-hmm. Also kind of a tone piece. I mean, they did show some gameplay at the end of it, but a lot of it was cutscene.
Yeah.
Because they wanted you to look at their Harrison Ford.
It's Troy Baker, right? Troy Baker.
Yeah. It is Troy Baker doing the voice, but I mean, they did. My understanding is they did a Harrison Ford scan for the likeness.
Got it. Yep. Choo choo. You Americans, and your choo choo and your the whole thing. Seems all right. I'm still looking forward to that game.
I'm not sure how sold I am on it, but murdering cartoonish Nazis is always inherently valuable.
Machine Games knows how to do it.
They do. The one thing I am very hopeful with this game, and maybe we'll see if it pans out or not. The problem I always had with those Wolfenstein games was that the actual action never had quite the punch that the storytelling and the visual style had.
I am 100% with you on those two games, particularly the second one.
So is that whip actually going to feel good, or is it going to feel like the emptiness that the guns in Wolfenstein often felt like they had?
It does. It has looked a little sloppy. The whip has looked a little sloppy. Again, just bopping around here. Other stuff that I thought was interesting. We saw Stalker 2.
Yeah, I played that. We'll talk about that maybe next week.
Okay, great. It's got its September date. I think that's the first time it's locked in outside of a end of the year, right?
Yes.
So that's September 4th for Stalker 2. They had a pretty decent chunk of that. Assassin's Creed was really shown at Ubisoft. They showed some more Diablo 4 stuff with a really brutal trailer.
That cinema, man! I went to watch this in the big Microsoft. Well, not it was at the Academy Museum of Motion Pictures.
Oh, good. The Academy never had a flaying so nice.
I saw a Millennium Falcon there. I don't know which one. I don't know which movie it was from. But that cinematic, I am medium squeamish, I guess. That was almost too much for me in a big public showing.
Her arms were split in half.
That body horror stuff was just a little bit, and the other thing was the sound system was extremely effective in that theater, and that scream, was a lot.
Yeah, I bet
that was a lot on a fucking 40-foot screen. But that, Blizzard's CG is still second to none.
Yeah, they should make a movie. South of Midnight was shown again, kind of an extended gameplay thing. I think that game still looks awesome.
I think it's the first time they've shown gameplay.
Oh, is the other one
pretty
just the CG
The
thing?
other one I think might have just been a quick trailer.
Yeah, they have not shown what that game was yet.
Looks awesome.
So yeah, that was like one of the main ones of like, okay, you've got all these internal studios now. Like, you know, they've announced games. Like, can we just see the games? And so that was finally the one that they did a reveal on.
Kind of confirmed third-person item adventure game where you've got a grappling hook, a cover thing.
More, I don't know why I was kind of expecting more narrative adventure for that and less action. Like, it's definitely more combat and like glider heavy than I expected.
No, I'm in.
Also, not to just use the Spider-Verse comparison, but it's using that kind of low frame rate style of Spider-Verse animation.
Got a couple of games this year that was shown with that.
Yeah, like that was it Mixtape, that Annapurna 80s, teen 80s thing, also doing that. Like, that raises a weird conundrum, right, in a video game where everything is supposed to move smoothly.
Of like input commands?
Right, but your characters are not, but your camera is, kind of stuff.
I'm sure they figured it out.
I mean, if the animation is responding to the player in a snappy way, I'm not sure the frame rate actually matters that much
I'm not
in the
even
context of something like this.
Yeah, I'm not even talking about input. I meant just some of these cutscenes where you get like a smooth pan with like jerky characters is just a weird contrast, but
it's a style choice. I understand it's not everyone's favorite, and I can understand that, but I just, I don't really care what frame rate a thing is as long as that it makes sense within the style of the thing that is being made.
If it works. And you know what? Both of those games kind of worked for me in what they showed. I thought... Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
I'm kind of interested in this Claire Obscure Expedition 33.
Yeah?
Yes.
This is the one with this is the French game where the people are fading away?
FRPG?
Yes, it is an FRPG. Oh, damn it, you beat me to it.
I think I said it on the stream too.
Did.
So
okay,
yeah,
okay.
Trademark. You got
also, I am increasingly becoming a Ben Starr stan, and he narrates this, and presumably is a main character. He's the main character in Final Fantasy 16, and rules. Yeah, I mean, I know I'm not the only one out there saying this by any means, but like turn-based combat needs to make a comeback.
Mm-hmm.
Like not all, but like a lot of the big classic RPG series have gone so character action.
Yes.
You just see menus pop up and let you input commands to make characters do things. It's kind of refreshing.
Yeah, it's got a neat look to it.
Yeah, and like maybe a potentially interesting concept.
That's 2025. That is putting that out.
So Kepler Interactive is publishing. Sandfall is the developer.
Sandfall. Okay. I'm not gonna hit everything here. I'll just mention very quickly. I thought the Metal Gear looked very good. I thought Snake Eater visually looked kind of awesome.
Yeah. Sharp.
Yeah, it looks sharp. Anything else you guys want to call out specifically?
I did think it was interesting. Sorry, go ahead, Brad.
No, go ahead and finish. Sorry.
Well, it's not necessarily related to Microsoft, but I did think it was very interesting that the current Kojima projects did not show up anywhere.
Yeah. Yes. OD was like one of the biggest ones that I was going like, okay, are we finally going to actually really see that?
And now I'm starting to wonder if there's a correlation here because there were no celebrities on that Summer Games Fest stage, which means no one for a Kojima to scan. Maybe there is some kind of agreement there.
He's got to complete his collection.
You must bring me the famous people, Jeff. I will not give you my games until you bring me the famous people.
Who do you have there?
But yeah, no OD and not even anything for Death Stranding 2, so...
Yeah, well, we saw a lot of Death Stranding earlier this year.
Maybe there's something for TGS.
I think you're forgetting, Alex. They did have one of the voice actors for Inside Out 2 in that very awkward exchange where that person was in the audience, remember? And then they ran the commercial for Inside Out 2.
Yeah.
And then they just moved on.
Not scannable. Not scan-worthy.
Did not rate for a scan.
He will not be scanned.
Brad, what were you going to say?
Gears. Like, we have
of course, yes. And of course, Gears.
Oh, you mean their tribute to Mad World?
Yeah, that was, I mean...
No, they're allowed to do it. They're the ones who are allowed to do it.
I guess so. You know what? Sure. Okay, you're right.
This whole thing worked for me in ways that I wouldn't have predicted it would.
It didn't work for me until they literally revealed the title and I realized what the concept of the game was.
Oh, okay. It didn't work when you saw young Marcus with hair and like...
Well, I mean, at first I was like... Well, okay, I went into this assuming they were continuing the Gears 5 story. is why I was confused about what this was, because I thought, I haven't kept up that closely with it, but I was under the impression that Gears 5 like left things in a place where they were going to keep going with that storyline into Gears 6. So I was not clear why this guy looked like a young Marcus Phoenix.
Yeah.
I was like, is this just supposed to be some do-rag reference here that I'm not getting? Like, where is the Gears story at this point that a character like this is in it? And then it turned out to be, it actually is young Marcus.
Mm-hmm.
So I think for me, I think I mentioned this before. I just started playing Gears with my son. We played and that game starts, I don't know if you remember, you start by breaking Marcus out of prison because they need him back, and they just talk about, E-Day, and what'd you do during the thing? And yeah. So they're all talking about that. So as soon as I saw this, I was like, oh my God, we're going to learn what happened and how he got in prison and go through all the stuff and that happened on E-Day, because they never made that game. And so I think as soon as I saw young Marcus, I was immediately in on great, awesome. The one Gear story I think I'm interested in seeing, they're going to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's like the one. It's the one thing in that universe that hasn't been covered that could be interesting. Not even just with those characters, but also just the broader situation of this is fucked up, you know?
Yeah.
This happening seems like a lot of good potential for drama in watching an urban and a thriving city just be literally undermined from below.
Yes. So I'm curious. I think they didn't show gameplay, but I am interested to see.
You don't need to see gameplay. You know what that is.
You know what's happening.
Well, so it's a TBD date, but I think you mentioned, moving on with Gears, and this is Gears of War E-Day, not Gears
of War.
E-Day.
Yeah, Gears I'm that's why I was so confused watching this. Was I really thought with going to just the Gears name and having kind of their own new storyline going.
No, they know who they're selling.
Move beyond Marcus. I really did not expect them to go back like this.
But so I guess my question is, do you get an open world Gears game, or are we doing a map by map Gears game? And I'm going to probably guess you're on a map by map Gears.
You mean just a fully linear cinematic action game?
Maybe not fully linear. I'm going to say maybe you get to choose.
Because five was going in a bit of an open direction.
Yeah.
But still kind of hub and spoke off into an individual level area type places, not fully just an open world, but will you drive a car that's not part of a narrative level in this to get around? Yeah, I would love something open and dynamic.
Yeah, that's what I'm curious about. Yes, will you be standing behind waist high cover and shooting?
Well, that absolutely.
I don't think you had chainsaw guns in this part. I think the chainsaws came out later, right? After E-Day.
A thread by one Cliffy B was going around on Twitter where he was speculating about a lot of the stuff in this, and he offered one of the big things you might see in this is the I think he said specifically that it's the retro Lancer you see in this.
Oh, the one
trailer.
that you have to pull the thing to start up.
Well, there's no chainsaw on it, that he was basically saying
the bayonet.
Maybe we'll see how the chainsaw came about.
Oh, okay.
We'll see them use it for the first time. We'll see the development of it type thing.
Yeah, let's do fucking Ghostbusters object fetishism style stuff with the fucking chainsaw gun. Absolutely. Let's dedicate an entire mission thread to the discovery of the chainsaw gun.
Yeah,
I get the prototype.
I definitely don't need that.
Look.
But they're going to do it, is the thing. You're 100% right. They are going to do it.
But a bit of an open city kind of thing could be very cool. I also wonder if all the new technical tricks that Unreal Engine 5 has, if they'll be able to do dynamic e-holes opening up.
Gross.
Oh, God.
Well, you sure you have a title for this one already?
I think you do now.
Isn't that what they called? That is what they called them, isn't it?
You close your e-hole, shut your hole.
But when you could literally just have enemies pop out of the ground anywhere, that could be a cool thing to show with buildings crumbling and stuff if they're able to pull that off.
I definitely don't want them underneath me. Could you fall? Well, how about Dom's? What about Maria? She's
that was another thing Cliff was talking about. That's obviously a formative. I'm not the biggest Gears person ever, but that's from what I remember, that's a very formative thing with Dom and everything.
A lot of Gears lore there.
Yeah.
More than you think.
Yeah, I am into this. I'm not jumping out of my seat, but they actually got me somewhat interested in a Gears game again, and that alone is a feat.
Well, that is a TBD.
Mhm.
We can only assume that means at the very earliest some kind of mid or late 2025, but that's pure speculation.
That is not this year.
Oh, I would bet $1,000 that's not next year either.
Really, you would say
Oh,
26?
I would say, is this going to be on the current generation of Xbox?
Ooh. Huh.
I would hope that they're not getting out there with stuff that they don't plan on putting on this hardware, but you never know, I guess.
I mean, at a minimum, I could see this being a split.
Yeah.
We
They did put that little addendum there at the end of the conference.
Yeah, like they had, I think it was Sarah Bond that
Yeah, it was.
said, like, they're kind of saying it almost every time they go out there with any messaging at this point. They'll pay some lip service to, like, the next generation of Xbox technology.
Hey, let me ask you a question.
Yeah, ask me.
Well, I'm asking Brad here because he was there for it. What was the vibe like in that theater?
It was interesting. It was, I don't know exactly what the split was, but there was definitely a large, like, fan contingent. They invited, like, community members. I think it might have been kind of 60-40 with media or something like that.
Because this is like a watch party, basically, but some of the execs were there, right?
Yeah, so I felt a little naive when I got there because, like, I was like, well, it's in person. Surely there will be some in-person component. And it was, in fact, just us in the theater with them hitting play on the pre-recorded, produced thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
but
you said earlier that they did had some people live.
Phil Spencer, Sarah Bond, and Matt Booty all did get up and speak, but it was extremely, like, off the cuff. Like, Spencer literally said, like, "Hey, this is not scripted. This is just us." I don't know.
I want to mention quickly, Gears of War 1 came out in 2006.
Yeah.
20th anniversary.
Oh,
Gears of War E-Day. 2026.
I was at a mixer at which Xbox executives were present, including Phil Spencer. Did not try to go up and bend his ear. I doubt I don't know if he remembers who I am or not.
He's been by Giant Bomb enough
of
times.
Of course.
Yeah.
But, those things
But
happen.
I wouldn't expect Phil to know me on sight, despite
totally.
the fact that I've shook his hand once a year for like 8 years in a row.
People at that tier are meeting a lot of people all the time.
Yeah.
When I would talk to him, at Giant Bomb stuff, he would know my name, which I thought was
really,
yeah. So
okay,
he seems like a smart guy.
Anyway, if I had actually tried to go bend his ear, it would have been to go be like, okay, dude, next November is 20 years of the Xbox 360.
Oh,
like if you folks are not leaning into that as hard as possible, what are you doing? Because that is the last time that anybody felt like wildly positive about the Xbox brand.
I feel like his answer would be like, Brad, you're 100% right. Right now, I am trying to keep my job. And
right now, Generation Remix could not matter less to me.
Fuck
trying
that, man.
to keep the studios open as much as I can, but you are 100% right. If we can do anything for the gamers, we will.
We need hero protagonists and Velocity Girl back.
Only they can save us.
We need Burger King gamer picks.
Dig Jay Allard up from the shallow grave he's buried in.
Like what?
That is definitely a thing you do. You're not like there's only one man who could. Get it back. He's a loose cannon.
What we need is a 20th anniversary version of Geometry Wars Retro Evolved.
Oh boy!
See, now that I'd be all in for.
Like, have I given my spiel for this? And it's not exactly a spiel because it's the most obvious thing in the world. Make that thing run at 4K with HDR. Maybe put some new achievements in it.
Mm-hmm.
Sell it for $4.99. That's it.
Sure,
that's it.
Yeah.
Like, you don't need to do a lot to it. Just put out a modern version of that thing with maybe a little more to do in it, and crucially, sell it for $4.99.
There you go.
There you go.
Because that was the thing at launch, right? I'm like, this is a whole ass game. This is a classic game for $5. Like,
and ironically, wasn't $4.99 the starting price of their rival console at that time?
$5.99. $5.99 was
$5.99
PS3 launch price.
They should sell it for $5.99.
That was just a big thing of the 360 launch, though. It was like one of the things they changed, right? Was just like, games can be really cheap and small and still amazing now.
And awesome, yeah. And a piece and have a day-and-date PC version.
Yeah, of course.
Of course.
It's my HDR. All right. We've got a couple more things here to cover before we wrap up, but they're still important. Let's talk briefly here about Ubisoft Forward, which I will just come out of the gate and say when I was putting up the YouTube archive for this, the tags I had in the YouTube player were exactly the same tags I had from Ubisoft Forward 2023, Assassin's Creed, Star Wars, Avatar. And we had Assassin's Creed, Star Wars, Avatar. So Ubisoft Forward had a lot more with Star Wars Outlaws. They had a lot more with Assassin's Creed Shadows, but the rest of it was really content bolted onto their existing properties that are out there.
Sure. Rocksmith.
Yeah, Rocksmith. I mean, they also had Anno. They had the new Anno. I should mention that because
did you have that tag last year?
I did not have that tag last year.
Okay.
But the crew had a big showing here. Avatar got some more content. Prince of Persia, they went out of their way to slap me across the face with a Prince. They say the Prince of Persia remake is there, but then it had a date of like 2026 on it. So you might as well have just been like, this might not come out ever. Why would you show this 2020? 2026 is so far away from now. You just put a TBD.
No, it isn't. It isn't.
Every day.
It's really
it's
not.
18 months away.
Dude, yeah, we are halfway through 2024.
It is 18 months away.
Are you, okay. You're gonna stand there and tell me 18-month development cycle on a Ubisoft game is anything guaranteed?
No.
Ubisoft games drop off the face of the earth like a flat earther.
Well, it was announced years ago. It's been in development for a long time.
That thing is so in flux. That's holding on to Beyond Good and Evil somewhere, being like, don't let me go. We have to make it. But they showed some other Prince of Persia stuff. Lost Crown Mask of Darkness, which is the narrative DLC, and then Lost Crown Divine Trials, which I think is more of is that one free? The Divine Trials seemed like more of an update than a big piece of DLC.
That's cool. That game is very good.
It's very good. Skull and Bones got a big segment of stuff. X Defiant got another season of stuff. I'm just going through the stuff that's not Assassin's Creed and Star Wars.
No Splinter Cell remake.
For Honor got some more stuff.
I don't know what is up with Splinter Cell, man.
Not sure anyone does.
It's Ubisoft, don't worry. You'll get a 2028 date for some Splinter Cell thing.
I feel like there has got to be enough demand for them to do something with that property at this point, right?
Maybe they just don't know what to do. You know? Like, do you just reboot the whole thing and start over?
Well, that's what they're trying to do.
Yeah, like, what is it? What is a tactical espionage game in 2029 when that game comes out? Who knows? Star Wars Outlaws was shown, and that's not to shorthand it too much, but it looks like your third-person action-adventure Star Wars game, non-Jedi Star Wars game that you might want. I dug what they showed. There was nothing that was too outside the realm of, like, wow, I can't believe they're doing that. It kind of fit the mold of what I expected that game to be.
Yeah, that's how I would say it.
Very, very much an open-world game.
Yeah.
Seemingly.
Run around, you're going to be getting upgrades. You got a cool little speeder bike, very narrative focused with the interactions with all the characters you'd come to expect in a Star Wars universe.
I did also hear one important detail about this game that is a general positive for me.
Yes.
It is not 100 hours long.
That's pretty good.
It is. I've heard it quoted roughly from people who were at the show and talking to people around the 30-hour expectation, which is fairly reasonable to me.
Is that to finish or to like 100%? I'm guessing.
I assume that's to finish the main story.
This game also, we should mention, is got to be close to done because it's an end of August game.
Yeah.
So.
Oh yeah, they are coming down the home stretch for sure. It looks pretty good. Like the space flight stuff, flying onto and off of planets seems pretty well done.
Get your little cute little monster friend. Like
it's kind of got the in-ship stuff that I wish the Jedi games had, Fallen Order and Survivor. You know,
go in the ship a little bit.
Well, yeah, but you can't you can just pick a planet off a map and fly there, you know. But this
you mean like not interior ship? You mean like flying the ship?
This is like actual space combat and actually navigate down to a planet and stuff like that.
I thought you meant like take your hands off the controls and walk around in the ship.
No. It's much more like it's much more fulfilling the fantasy of having your own spaceship and being able to like jump to hyperspace and land on a planet.
Right.
Yourself.
They showed like taking a bounty contract and then and then hitting the hyperspace. Yeah, like you said, off planet, emerging, going into planet stuff looked cool. Obviously it's not No Man's Sky. You're not just flying around in atmosphere, but they seem to do a pretty good job of it.
Yeah, I like their font work. Like when these like planet names pop up.
Oh, sure.
And the objective names and stuff. That looks pretty good.
Yeah. Like looks good. I'm looking forward to playing it. It is end of August. It's like very end of August, right?
Yeah.
And
not
then
far away.
They showed Assassin's Creed Shadows, but they didn't necessarily get into the real, is this a Odyssey-like, or is this a Mirage or earlier run like? But it did seem the combat was much more counter-based.
Yeah, I think that some of that stuff was kind of in there. It does feel like they were leaning heavier on it, especially for the Yasuke portions of the gameplay where you were playing essentially a samurai and not a ninja. That said, looking at the way their armor was bedazzled in that game, I'm going to tell you right now, you are definitely collecting armor sets in that game.
I don't mind if you're collecting armor sets. I think it's the like kind of purple loot stuff that
well, even like Valhalla had scaled back from where Odyssey was with that stuff, though there was still a fair amount of it. It was definitely not the just incredible dump of weapons you are never going to use that Odyssey had.
So the things that they don't show in here also, or at least not in this presentation, were any kind of big like traveling the map stuff.
Right.
You're gonna have a map. You're gonna have stuff you're gonna uncover on the map.
Mm-hmm.
But how much of that is there, right? Like how much roaming the countryside is there gonna be out there? So I'm very curious to see this game. It looks really interesting to me. I like their samurai and shinobi mix of combat here. I think that's interesting to break things up. This is one I'm looking forward to checking out, but I do have like, I feel like they have to earn my trust back. Mirage did not do it for me. That is Assassin's Creed Shadows. That is November. That might be the November release.
At this rate, yeah.
At this point. A lot of stuff in September, though. So it's going to be actually kind of a wild September with games coming out. Anything else from Ubisoft you guys want to pull out here?
Not really.
I've only had a chance to skim it since I was still there while this happened.
Like I said, a lot of updates to their existing franchises. Anno 117 Pax Romana was the Anno game they showed.
Is that the earliest they've done?
I don't keep up with the Anno franchise, so I'm not the one to ask. But people really like those games. So celebrate.
They keep making them.
Brawlhalla's getting new stuff.
Anything to say about Civ 7 while we're talking about that
I'm glad
style
they're doing
game?
it. There's not really any information in that trailer beyond, hey, we're doing another one of these, though. Kat Manning, who was one of the main narrative writers on Midnight Suns, I believe, is the lead writer on Civ as well. And that gives me some hope because she's good. And I mean, look, really all they have to do is just build on what Civ 6 did, because Civ 6 got really good by the time they were done expanding it and working on it. So I think there's more than enough there that you can just kind of pivot off of. You don't have to reinvent what Civ is necessarily all over again.
I'm just happy they got Sid Meier for this announcement.
I know.
Still doing it.
He was in the office that day.
Still doing it.
Yeah.
I know.
He will never stop. I was telling Vinny this. I truly believe he will never stop.
Yeah, I heard years back, meaning like probably after Civ 5 came out or something, like long after his name was on the box and he could have just like checked out. He was still like writing AI code himself,
Yeah, that's what he loves, is just the coding side of stuff.
We didn't mention it, but Civ reminded me of it. There's also that Age of Mythology Retold from the Microsoft press conference, which was again, we're just doing RTS games, which is great. I love an RTS game.
Yeah. I guess maybe those Age of Empires like remakes did well.
Yeah, maybe. All right, so that's Ubisoft. I mean, there's a ton of other stuff here. I don't think we can go through all of it. from all the different press conferences. Anything else you guys wanted to call out in particular?
Probably the last thing to mention, although I've only had a chance to kind of skim parts of it, is the Dragon Age reveal.
Oh, sure.
And name change for that matter.
Yeah.
What are they doing?
The name change had been rumored for a few days before the unveiling.
So that's Veilguard?
The Veilguard. Now it's Dragon Age. Even Dragon Age Veilguard would be better than the Veilguard, but also Dreadwolf is such a good name. Like, why?
Maybe they de-emphasized Solus from where he was originally going to be in that game. Who can say? I
don't know. I'll say even skipping through this thing, I heard the name Solus like a dozen times.
Yeah.
I love Dragon Age. I read the books. I fell off hard on Inquisition, and so I don't know where the state of the world is. This game though, they showed an extended thing. They showed some of it. I think, was it Microsoft?
They did like the kind of a tone piece or like character trailer at Microsoft, which I feel like got kind of a mixed response.
And then the extended thing EA showed on Tuesday.
Just a full-on 20 minutes of the game.
Much more, or I guess it's not surprising. I was going to say much more than I thought. It was very action RPG.
I'm definitely surprised. I mean, expect some action, but like it seems like just action.
It's pretty action. It's pretty Mass Effect-y. Everybody's been saying, or at least the two things I saw about it, also compared to Mass Effect, because you get the wheel that comes up when you hit the button for your abilities. I didn't see necessarily in it, but I didn't scrub through frame by frame. Do you get party actions? Because it kind of just looked like character action stuff.
Yeah. Like I said, I didn't watch the entire thing, but
yeah, I guess I was a little surprised, but it feels like the Dragon Age has had kind of an identity crisis for a while here of what they want it to be, a tactical RPG or a CRPG or a character action game.
Well, and I think the bigger thing is we just don't know what the current state of games at BioWare is. Like, whatever this thing ends up being, whether it's something that's a different evolution of what Dragon Age was, or if it does end up hewing closer to original Dragon Age. The real thing is the last few BioWare games have not really been good.
Yeah, you're right.
Original Dragon Age was like straight turn-based, so this is absolutely the opposite of that.
Yeah. But that's the thing is, like, even if they're evolving it, that's fine. I think it doesn't really matter to me that they're evolving Dragon Age. The bigger question to me is, are they making a good game? And I really can't tell based on the early feedback.
Yeah, like, on some level, I'm surprised this game is still coming out. I'm surprised they were given the chance to finish it.
I'm surprised the data so soon, too.
After it's been in development forever.
I know.
What did they announce it 6 years ago or something like that?
Roughly.
Even Anthem was 5 years ago, right? Or
2017.
6? Wait, no, Andromeda was 2017.
It was Anthem was 2019.
19, yeah, Anthem was 19. Like I said, though, after the way both of those games went, I'm a little surprised they actually got the runway to finish this. And to their credit, obviously I haven't played it or seen it in front of me, but like it looks totally fine.
Yeah.
Like,
I hope it's good.
Other than, setting aside whether the change in direction is to your taste or not, like it looks completely competent.
Yeah, I like it. Does the world want Baldur's Gate is your Infinity Engine RPG at this point, right?
Yeah, but also I couldn't help thinking about that game as I was watching this, though. Like it's kind of the same thing I was saying about Final Fantasy earlier. Like Final Fantasy 16 is basically just a character action game. This looks similar. Like all the big storied RPG franchises have run toward this mass market like action kind of focus.
Yeah.
And then the biggest fucking game of last year was the most hardcore turn-based RPG you could possibly ask for.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you're totally right. I just wonder if Larian was out there. They didn't just stumble into it. Larian's been doing this stuff, right? Yeah. I don't know. Kind of to your point, Alex. I don't know if BioWare has the people that are going to make that game at this point, because BioWare is not BioWare is not Baldur's Gate BioWare. It's a different BioWare.
Definitely.
And I'll just say, when I saw that they threw the date up for that thing and how soon that is, I had a real heart-sinking dread moment of, are they Andromedaing this? Are they just trying to get it out to cut their losses?
No, they've been saying this year for a long time.
I thought they said September, but maybe I'm wrong.
I did not. I am not seeing any other date. I just saw the.
Yeah, it does. I don't see a date anywhere. But they had been saying this year for quite some time, but it had also been a situation of like it had been slowly creeping back, year by year, because it has been in development for so long.
Yeah.
But they had seemed pretty firm on it coming out this year, I thought.
Like, again, I'm not going to fight the fight for me personally of like, oh, it needs an overhead camera and a tactical mode. And I'm kind of with you guys on like, if it's a good game, it's a good game. That's fine. Yeah. Dragon Age has always just felt so, again, kind of figuring out what it wants to be as they move from iteration to iteration between Origins and Inquisition and kind of going back and forth on tactical versus combat versus character focus versus party focus.
But at the same time, the last one was really successful.
Super successful, but not for me. I felt it wasn't for me. And I wonder.
Well, did you just fall into the same trap as everybody of trying to do everything in the hinterlands?
I probably did. But
I took the advice and I did not do everything in the hinterlands, and that helped a lot.
Because I sure as hell burned out on it doing that.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see where it goes. It has a nice look to it.
Mm-hmm.
I suspect you can make your character and choose their class, but
yeah, it says at the top of this demo, like the camera rotates around to the player character here, and it says Rook, level 1 rogue, backstory Shadow Dragons, custom appearance. So
okay, does say custom appearance. Okay.
I assume that means I assumed that was them trying to drive home, like, hey, you can create your character and set their backstory and class.
Okay. Yeah, Dragon Age: The Veilguard, still slated for this year. We'll see what happens. I think
this will come out.
This will come out.
This will come out. Yeah, I don't doubt that one bit.
When does it come out? November?
That would be my guess.
December 12th.
They have to have the fear of God in them, Like, they have to know this is it. Like, I'm sure they have taken every precaution possible to prevent a three-peat of a broken game coming out.
There's a lot of stuff from these showcases.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff, like I said, in September. I have to go add a bunch of stuff to our database to go just kind of do the tally here for end of August, early September. But I feel like things that had dates felt like they all had a 9 in front of them for September.
Yeah, let me see here real fast before we wrap up. Like Star Wars is August.
But it's like very late August.
What else got announced for August here? That's about it, actually. It is September, right? That Age of Mythology, Stalker 2, AstroBot are all the first week of, and Space Marine 2, the first week of September.
That Black Myth Wukong is also August.
Right, yes. That looks cool.
Yeah, yes. There's a lot of September stuff. So we was trying to look at the release thing here. You said Stalker, right? There's also that, this is coming up in like a week, but there's that DLC for Elden Ring. That is probably the next big thing on my calendar. But yeah.
That's probably going to be the big thing on a lot of people's calendars because there ain't much coming out between now and the end of July.
But also, Elden Ring, huge. I think there was just an announcement about Elden Ring in the news about how huge, and apparently huge.
Slitterhead got a November date.
Okay.
We did not talk about that.
I mentioned Slitterhead just showing because that game showed differently. It was a different game than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, that's what I mean. We didn't talk about how crazy it looks.
Yeah. It was much more action than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, yes. And like possessing other people, right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. A lot of that sort of thing. And also just a lot of weird body horror type stuff.
I knew it was going to be that. All right. We have plenty more to talk about in the coming weeks, days, as we lead up to what seems like will be a pretty big August and September. There's also a bunch of other stuff coming out. Like we said, all the demos are out there. Mm-hmm. I do think the demo, at least for that very English game that Panic is publishing. Do you remember that game? The one it had that
Yes,
song.
I do.
I think a demo for that is also out. And I
Oh,
really
wow.
want to check that out.
Huh.
Because I think that game is actually not that far away. Thank goodness you're here is August 1st. Volgarr is August.
Yeah.
SteamWorld Heist 2 is still August. Concord is August.
Right,
Good luck.
Concord.
Good luck, Concord.
Yeah.
Oh,
Good luck.
Yeah, I went into Sony booked the appointment for this thing with 2 games that they would not reveal the name of at the time I booked the thing. I was like, well, it's got to be AstroBot and Concord that we're going to play. It was not. It was AstroBot and Lego Horizon.
Oh, right. I
So
forgot.
no sign of Concord at this thing is the point.
All right. We're going to wrap up here. We're going to end this show because there are games to play and games to anticipate for the next 2 months. I want to thank everybody for listening. Just a quick update here. We have the Watchcast trucking on. We are deep into our season 3 Twin Peaks watch. A lot of fun episodes, like I said, on the Watchcast that we just recorded. Maybe my favorite, at least moment, if not episode, that we recorded. Was it episode 11? The number?
that was that one. The moment you're talking about was in episode 11.
I loved it. So good. That is available next week, that one we just recorded, but you can go check that stuff out over on the Patreon. I'll mention here again, Never Been a Better Podcast. It's going to be a bit later this month as people get back from traveling and resettle back in. We'll record that. I believe we are scheduled now for next week. I have to double check. That could go up a little bit later in the month. You can check all of these things at patreon.com/Nextlander. Ramblecast, Never Been a Better Podcast, Watchcast, Planoramas, so much stuff. A bigger world of Nextlander awaits you over at patreon.com/Nextlander. And there is one tier there that gets their names read on this here show. And I'm going to read those names for you right now. Starting with Sean Miller, RRE, Infelicitous Rips, Kelly F., Brian Lucier, Skywarp, John Hubbard, Evan Cook, Mark Wilhelm, Jerry Lee, Deidre is Coffee, Gary Pejke, Robert Fisher, Bunny Fiend, Chad Rita, Statics, Fantastichasm89, Razgriz2, Brian Murphy, Randy Duax, Andrew Tiebkin, Alex Wu, It Me JP, Edward Chick, Andrew Slotsky, Steve Lynn, Matthew Herrig, David Campos, and Tyler Treese. Those are our mysterious benefactors for this week. Thank you so much. And thank you to everyone who has helped us out over at patreon.com, helped us out by watching our streams, helped us out by listening to the podcast, keeping the good word alive out there.
That's right.
Nextlander. Look,
Could not have gone to Los Angeles and covered this event without
could
your support.
not have done it without you. We've been doing this a long time.
Let me tell you.
Could not continue doing it.
Let me tell you, it was a different experience going not on the CBS budget.
I'll
You know?
this is like my PBS version of this. This is my my NPR version. If you appreciate the voices of your independent journalism of Brad Shoemaker going down to a Summer Game Fest on a budget that is wholly viewer supported and listener supported, we thank you for contributing and thank you for keeping that independence alive. You are not sponsored by someone, Brad.
No.
You're giving the people your real feelings.
Sponsored by the people who want to hear what we have to say
That's right.
about the video games that we saw.
You know what I appreciate, Brad?
What's
I appreciate you in one of the most comprehensive views of video games out there today, going there, seeing these things with all of that knowledge, distilling them, and telling us what you've seen in the context of the history of not only showcases and E3s, but also in the context of your 20 plus years of being around this industry.
Thank you.
Where are you going to get that?
Thank you. You know what? I was happy to do it. I was very happy.
to
I
do
was very happy to be there. You know, it turned out to be a very heartwarming, uplifting thing.
You
That's
also
nice to
got
hear.
to see the rest of the olds down
Yeah,
there.
There's that part.
There was part of that, yes. We were all complimenting each other on how well we're wearing our gray these days.
That's right.
But you know, I mean, it was really nice to catch up with a bajillion people I haven't seen in years, but also like it was actually just nice to sit there in front of a kiosk and have a developer explain their game to me.
Sure.
Like that is about as old an activity as I have ever engaged in this line of work, you know, like going literally back to like beginning of GameSpot. So like just kind of getting back to our roots a little bit of, you know what, I'm just going to see some games that are not going to be out for 6 months and have somebody give me some inside scoop on them and then go talk about it.
And we couldn't do it again. We couldn't do it without you. Without you, Brad, and without the audience out there. And that's going to do it for our show. We will be streaming on Friday. We're not 100% sure what yet, but we will be doing something on Friday. And I'm going to mop up a bunch of CyberQuest nonsense on Thursday because I think we are actually, for realsies, nearing the end of that main storyline.
We are in the neighborhood.
We're in the neighborhood. We wrapped up the DLC. I think we're getting near the end of the main story, but there's a bunch of side quests out there, so I'm going to be doing that on Thursday. So you can join me for that as well. Thank you very much, Brad Shoemaker.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alex Navarro.
Thank you.
And we'll be back next week.